On the internet, the story of Kristen Weston Chandler is the stuff of legends. It can be argued that there's never been a single person in history that has been as extensively observed and documented as ChrisChan, but odds are you've heard that statement more times than you could possibly ever count. But still, you get the idea. There's so many different complex twists and turns to the many sagas that Chris has endured. It's impossible to deny that a vast majority of everything that has happened to Chris over the years has been his own doing. Time after time, he responded to trolls and negative commenters in an attempt to clear his name, because for whatever reason he deeply cared about how random people perceived him. Nobody could ever properly convince Chris to not respond to the trolls. Even if people tried to intervene and act as a buffer between him and the criticism he so rightfully had coming his way, Christian would make every wrong decision that he could, time and time again, without fail, with masterful execution. There wasn't a single thing he could do at that point outside of removing himself from the web, and Chris being Chris, that just wasn't going to happen. He'd tell off the trolls, make remarks about how he was straight and the trolls were homos. A fervorous passion for God, Jesus, and China fueled Chris's passion to weather the storm. He'd fight and kick and scream to the best of his ability. Even then, the trolls would never back down, persistently egging him on to do increasingly foolish things, yelling at the camera, tearing apart his possessions, stomping his feet in fits of rage, and over-explaining the intricacies of his more adult interest. Oversharing was one of Chris's biggest faults, as he confused it with being true and honest. People would create unique and somewhat clever identities to conceal who they really were when interacting with the internet's favorite punching bag, opting to convince him that they were of some kind of importance to him, that they could solve his problems or offer him something that he wanted. This could range from comic book or video game production deals to the prospect of achieving sexual intercourse with a pretty boyfriend-free girl. The latter, of course, would be his weakness, as his hubris was always his deep-rooted desire to have a girl to hold on to his chubby arms and give him some poon. Snatch could make people do some really silly things. There were countless fake girlfriends that entered his social circle and left their imprint on him. You know, for the most part anyway. He'd eventually forget about quite a few of them, which is fair, because after the years of being lied to over and over, it likely all started to blur together. This would continue before and even after the subject of today's video. Rather than just read from the quickie directly, I thought we'd take the time to analyze and consider the finer points of Chris's story, namely the impact that one particular person had on the entire timeline. A young boy who was molded and shaped by the internet, engaging in long con ops to fool Chris into doing increasingly asinine and dangerous things. The strength of this young man's participation in the trolling has been felt for years, resulting in some of the most iconic of Chris's misadventures. This is the story of BlueSpike, the youngest troll to leave a lashing on Chris, and one of the most prolific members of Christory. Keep in mind, there are things in this video that can be shocking. It's not my job to tell you what is right and wrong. You should be more than capable of doing that yourself. This video is intended for functional adults that can discern good and bad behavior. I don't co-sign anything said or done regarding Chris's trolling, but I'll also never deny that this stuff is both hilarious and timeless. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. Before we can truly get anywhere, it's important to understand that many of Chris's sagas overlap or rather coincide with others, because Chris's escapades on the World Wide Web had moved a lot faster than most people would expect. This includes the Clyde Cash saga, Panda Halo, Miyamoto, you get the idea. The point of the matter is that Chris's life has had many moving parts that were being loosely manipulated or directly influenced by trolls. Clyde Cash, as you're most likely aware, was the arch-nemesis of Christian Chandler as far as the internet goes. He had been engaging in a series of back-and-forth bickering with Christian, doing whatever he could to get under his skin. Clyde worked with a variety of different people that also had the intention of bringing untold misery to the life of an autistic man that never learned from any of his mistakes. More often than not, though, Clyde was just assuming the roles of different people in Chris's fantasy world, serving to help convince Chris that not only was he a victim, but he was also the center of the universe, an infallible person who's being dogged on by the internet for no good reason at all. He essentially stroked Chris's ego as other people to keep him motivated in his fight to disprove the trolls, but then would go under his normal alias and taunt him in order to make Chris go a little crazy. This was a constant feedback loop that Christian was stuck in, but realistically it's pretty much all his own fault. Others would show up and try to make contact with Chris, and while some were successful on that front, rarely did they ever do anything that'd actually stick with him for very long. It's debatable whether or not at times the trolls were as dumb as Chris, as typically the best detractors were always the ones who had elaborate schemes in place to help them better antagonize their target. But damn, all of that precious time they spent clowning on Chris could have been spent on doing something much more productive. Clyde and pretty much all of Chris's observers had come to the conclusion that Chris's Achilles heel is his desire for romance, the long drawn-out quest to find a woman that not only would be willing to be with him romantically, but would also provide him with sex and maybe even a daughter. Chris was rarely, if ever, accepting of friendship from males. This was largely due to his hostile interactions with them during his time in public schooling. Well, that and his automatic assumption that all boys are cruel and unkind and just mean-spirited. So the best course of action that also seemed to be fruitful was to impersonate women. Chris, being, well, autistic, meant that he didn't pick up on all of the same social cues that most people would, oftentimes falling for the most obvious of bait. He unfortunately was unable to figure out whether or not somebody was clearly lying to his face until it was far too late, often choosing to accept whatever they say at face value, because nobody would ever lie on the internet, right? All of those people that did it before were just a strange, exceptionally uncommon anomaly. But this doesn't mean that Chris never learned anything. While he was still incredibly easy to fool, it was also becoming somewhat apparent to him that his trolls were relying on the same methods to get a hold of him. But there was a new avenue to get in direct communication with him: IRC. Chris had been using IRC to have a direct line of communication with his fans during 2008. That means Internet Relay Chat for those of you that are too young to have participated in the golden age of the internet. And one particular name that popped up in these chats was Julie, under the pseudonym BlueSpike. This Julie person had been active in Chris's newfound circle, oftentimes trying to begin conversations with Chris about the many facets of his life. Hell, BlueSpike even encouraged Chris to make a house tour video long before he had done one for a later love interest. So it goes without saying that BlueSpike is the username of the person who was actively contacting Chris. But this person is going to play a few characters over the course of the story, so I'll be referring to them by 3 names depending on what the person or the character they were playing was doing. Oh, and how can I forget, the person assuming the role of Chris's latest fangirl was actually a minor, who according to the quickie was born on October 12, 1998, meaning they were a little over 12 years old at the time. Trust me, their age is something that's gonna really concern the hell out of you when you learn what he was getting roped into. Anyhow, the personality he adopted will be revealed in due time. Anyway, Julie Molvania, born July 13, 1989, was a Molvanian Methodist. Her supposed country of origin will be significant later on in the story. Julie would discuss questions about the Sonichu series and other really pressing parts of Chris's life, such as how Chris would take care of his family if he were to have a wife and child. Please describe how your dream marriage would be. Would you support your wife and daughter? Who would clean and take care of the child? Who would pay the bills? In a nutshell, a simple, happy marriage. I would be the house husband. I would open the opportunity to bring the bacon to my wife. Me, I would manage the bills. Oh, so he just wanted to sit on his ass. Awesome. Chris was also questioned on the prospect of a movie being put together in regard to the tumultuous life that Chris had endured. The people truly wanted to know what esteemed celebrities would play what characters in Chris's life. If the story of your life or Sonichu were made into a big Hollywood movie, what famous actor would play the role of yourself? What about any other actors or actresses come to your mind for other characters? I would play myself, as well as the voice of Sonichu, Britney Spears, Jim Carrey. My mind is blank. Cool! I hope someday that movie is made. These friendly and generally positive interactions were enough to get Julie invited to Sonichu Girls, a short-lived web forum where the genuine female fans of Chris's robust works could talk to each other and also have another way to talk to Chris. Because what lady out there wouldn't want to have contact with a highly regarded comic book artist? Chris's interactions with Julie became increasingly more sexual as time moved forward. At one point, Chris, Julie, and some of the other girls in chat discussed the potential steamy orgy between all of them, with Chris acting as the meat of the sandwich. Julie was quite interested in the potential session of collaboration, and the following day, while under the influence of Chris's unmatched charisma, Julie threatened to harm herself after it was revealed that Chris had promised his virginity to both her and Panda Halo. This was a dangerous situation because, well, women can be pretty frightening when they're also crazy and angry. Panda Halo was not too enthused to learn that Chris was promising his own cherry being popped to someone other than her. And I mean, Julie was threatening to off herself if she didn't get that bent duck inside of her. Of course Chris was going to make the worst decisions possible. I think I'm going to end my life, even though I didn't have sex with him, because of you, Chris. Don't do that, Julie. Goodbye. Imagine that feeling, but over 9,000 times as strong. I'll see Ryan soon. Chris tried to remedy the situation by suggesting that instead of fighting to the point where there would be no resolution, that they could all resolve their problems just by having a threesome together. This was confirmed in a private Skype chat between Julie and Chris, which just so happened to get leaked later. Funny how that works out, huh? Julie, listen, I've promised my heart and my virginity to Panda, confidentially aka IRL, Sarah Cassandra McKenzie, but if it's any consolation, after our first time, she is willing to do a threesome. Aside from that, I'd still like to meet you as guy and gal pals. I apologize for getting carried away with my flirtatious moments. I accept your apology. Julie had even requested that Chris come out and see her in Ohio, but Chris refused, suggesting that if she wanted to receive his mighty peen, she would have to trek all of the way out to Virginia. Chris knows how much women love to be dismissed and do all of the work while their potential mate just sits on his ass and plays Little Big Planet. Chris is known to keep a direct contact with people he believes are either his buddies, gal pals, dedicated fans, or imaginary friends. This unfortunately always spells controversy for Chris, because wherever he ends up going, trouble just has a unique way of finding him. As such, Chris kept a line of communication open with BlueSpike, with the two exchanging a variety of messages over the period of a month and some change. From January 4th to the 18th of 2009, the two would rarely have much in the way of full conversations, but that's not to say that BlueSpike wasn't consistently reaching out to see if he could get some kind of reaction from ChrisChan. Over this period, the two most significant conversations are the hacking of sonnetu.net, which isn't exactly related to the story at hand, and the potential threesome between Chris, BlueSpike, and Panda Halo. Chris, believing BlueSpike to be a genuine fangirl, was pretty partial to the idea of entertaining two of his biggest fans and admirers. Outside of this, though, there wasn't much of the relationship of Chris and Julie just yet. Chris being Chris, he saw her as just another potential hole to fill. The next period was between the 19th and 22nd of January, and the primary topics were Chris destroying a sex toy on video, Chris's ongoing squabbles with his many online trolls, and Chris's dealings with Panda Halo. BlueSpike was mostly just poisoning the well, trying to get Chris to respond to the negative experiences that had been thrown his way recently, but Chris had been feeling especially lazier than usual and didn't seem to care to try to defend his honor. For once, Chris was willing to let the bullshit happen because maybe for just a fraction of a second, he understood that the internet doesn't really matter all that much in the real world. At least, it didn't back then. The topic of Chris destroying the adult toy is interesting because Chris claims that he received it as part of a thank you package from Adam and Eve for ordering a slew of paraphernalia from their website. He used the aforementioned plastic rod as a symbolic representation of the trolls' penises, and stomping it not only reaffirmed that he's straight, but was also inflicting a destructive blow against something that was meant to represent the genitals of his enemies. I mean, he touched it, and that's supposed to be their meat, so I'd argue that's kinda gay.
And another thing, you slanderous trolls. You can kiss my foot. And you know what else? And don't you forget it.
The next notable period, from January 28th to the 4th of February, covered Chris setting up a voice chat client, his continued interactions with Panda Halo despite them hitting a rough patch in their relationship, and how he and Julie could possibly have a child at some point in the future. Oh, and a hefty serving of disgusting sexual conversations. Without going too deep into the topic, allow me to read one of the standout messages from Chris that made me feel all twisted up and sick. When I have a threesome with two women, and that is the only type of threesome I would want ever, I'd like the two women to do the scissor position that I've heard about, but I'd put my dick in between the kissing vaginas. Winky face. It was also revealed in this conversation that Julie had a diabolical shit of a brother called Max, who did everything in his power to annoy his sister. Again, this supposed personality was nothing more than an alias adopted by BlueSpike. Anyway, Chris's trolls have been using Mumble and other instant messaging services to relay information back and forth to each other. While there's no logs that I could find that were made during the time of it being used by trolls, we can safely assume that they coordinated their trolling operations through these services. Mumble is a voice chat application that allows users to host and run their own private voice communication servers, wherein people can join and have conversations through spoken word and text. Chris had opted to create his own Mumble circle for his true and honest fans, particularly the ladies of his following, because everybody knows that women get all gooey and creamy at the thought of conversing with a man who inserts himself into his own Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon fanfiction. The first recorded Mumble chat occurred on January 31st, 2009. This call happened during the tail end of the Miyamoto and Panda Halo sagas. Chris was still under the impression that he was in talks with Nintendo big shots Miyamoto and Reggie, and was still somehow pursuing romantic endeavors with Panda. The first Mumble chat recording starts right in the middle of a conversation as Chris is discussing one of the most important factors of his life, Transformers. This chat would gradually run its course and move on to differing topics, such as video games, his filthy room, Legos, how hot lesbians are, how sister-on-sister incest is acceptable in his eyes, and his quarrels with his father, Bob. The only important thing to the topic at hand is that a name was brought up a handful of times, Julie. She was an active participant in the chat, however there's no audio of her talking, so it's safe to assume that Julie was using the chat window to strike up and exchange a dialogue with Chris.
I haven't been able to buy Toro or the Ape Escape costumes yet, Julie, just to let you know. I mean, I'm not getting my tugboat for a few more days. Yeah, that's why, for those that were recreated from the UMD, I just would assume buy the UMD instead of wasting memory stick duo space. And, Julie, I will definitely consider doing that for you, but not at the moment.
The next Mumble Chat was on the 4th of February 2009, and covered topics like Chris's nude photos that were circulating the internet, Clyde's actions against Chris, adult topics in Sonichu, that sort of stuff. Julie also appeared in the chat but isn't heard, but also didn't seem to be a major participant in the conversation either. Regardless, this shows that the Julie character was forcefully making a habit of appearing in places that Chris could easily be found. However, the following day, Chris would engage in another Mumble Chat, but this time, it was just between him and Julie, and entirely through voice. How about that? Now, I gotta give a little more context about Julie before we move forward. Like I mentioned earlier, BlueSpike was a kid at the time, so if you happen to notice that Julie sounds suspiciously close to a young boy haphazardly impersonating a girl, well, now you know why. It's also worth mentioning that Chris is just really naive, despite how much he hates that word. Most people are able to immediately pick up on the fact that BlueSpike, or rather Julie or whatever, sounds very young, and some have even used this as an argument to try to prove that Chris is some kind of pedo fork. That's stupid, and the people who think that way are also stupid. Because anybody who's spent a decent amount of time observing Chris can tell you that he is in fact stupid, and he also doesn't pay attention, and his autism likely makes his facial and vocal blindness a bit worse. Besides, Chris is far more interested in old ladies. Julie's country of origin, Molvania, is brought up during this conversation. Julie reveals that her home country was destroyed. This sparked Chris's curiosity, who tried to gather more information about the catastrophe that happened across the pond. While Chris was right smack in the middle of trying to research the latest developments, he was quickly shot down by Julie, who instead offered her own interpretation of what had happened. Julie knew that if she didn't step in and prevent him from doing his due diligence, that she'd inevitably have her cover blown. Molvania is significant because the country just, well, it doesn't exist. It's a fictional country from a Puranic travel guide called Molvania, a land untouched by modern dentistry, by Tom Gleisner, Rob Sitch, and Santo Solaro. The country is described as, quote, the owner of Europe's oldest nuclear reactors, and, quote, the birthplace of the whooping cough. I don't know about you guys, but I bet the women from this place are bad, you know what I mean? I bet they know how to make that shit work. Fine European ladies with 3 teeth, a bad cough, and radiation poisoning. Anyway, Chris could have finally had the ammunition needed to properly label Julie as a fake troll, but his desire for China made him blindly follow the social cues of women, at least what he interprets to be women, which led to him accepting Julie's convenient explanation that the dictator of Molvania was taken out.
Well, I have unfortunate news about Molvania. It appears to have been destroyed. I know that sounds strange, but I don't know what happened. I'm very worried.
Maybe I can find something
I miss my hometown.
I hear you. Hang on, I'll Google Molvania and see if I can find...
No, it's alright. I'm pretty sure I know what happened.
Oh, tell me in your own words, what you think happened.
I don't know. It's just... I think the dictator of Molvania, I think he was assassinated.
The dictator was assassinated?
As far as I've heard from Cameron before I lost all contact with him.
You mean her, don't you?
Sorry, I keep getting confused. My English is awful. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're trying. You're doing okay.
Thank you very much.
During this conversation, Chris's nemesis Clyde Cash was periodically popping up on the Mumble server and disconnecting after a short while. He mostly remained in the inactive channel, which meant that not only could he not access the section of the server that Chris and Julie were in, but he had no way of knowing how to get in or what they were talking about, unless, you know, someone was on the inside. However, this didn't dissuade Chris from speaking freely. Julie took a moment to ask ChrisChan a very important question regarding his comic book creation. Does he feel any attraction to the characters he's made? I mean, look at how superbly they're drawn. Who wouldn't want to bone them?
Yeah, about your comic, I actually have a question I've been pondering for a while.
Yes.
Do you find yourself attracted to your female characters that you create at all?
Do I find myself attracted to my female characters?
That you have created, yes. I'm sorry if it's a bit too much, but I feel like I've been pondering it.
Think about that. Are we calling the rose shoes?
Huh. What?
Hang on a second. We got an interloper here.
He must be a troll.
Oh, there he goes. He got kidnapped.
Oh, there he goes. Thank goodness.
Right, so, are we talking about, so, in addition, the human female characters, are we also talking about, maybe attractive to the rose shoes?
Yes, I've been pondering. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I would say they all have a good. They all think I'm handsome, like my mother. My mother tells me constantly that I'm handsome, and I agree with her when I look at myself in the mirror. But it's like, every time she tells me I'm handsome, I'm like, if I'm so handsome, why don't I have a girlfriend?
But shortly after this topic had come to pass, Clyde managed to weasel his way into the voice chat channel, likely through means of expert-level hacking and cracking. Clyde made sure to shake his fist at the mayor of Quickville, menacing as he makes sure that both Chris and Julie know that no matter where Chris goes, no matter how hard he tries to keep himself hidden away from the attack of Clyde and his cronies, that he'll always be able to reach him despite Chris's efforts to the contrary. Shit like this is why I adore Clyde as one of the main antagonists of ChrisChan's story. He's cheesy and hard to take seriously, but to Chris, he's the perfect arch-rival, a foe that monologues and taunts him, like something out of a cartoon.
And who cares?
Clyde? What are you doing here?
I just wanted to stop by and say hi, Julie.
Get out.
Yep.
Look, Chris, I just want to tell you something.
What
I'm
is
off my
it?
medication right now, I'm off my weed, and I'm still angry at you now. But last time was a mistake. I shouldn't. Vivian told me. Tell me, Chris. I just want you to answer one thing.
What
Why
is it?
haven't you killed me yet? Why haven't you killed me yet?
Yes, I think he's trying to kick me.
Clyde's impact would be felt throughout the duration of the chat. Turns out that Clyde had been stalking Julie, and given his history of assaulting women who dare show any kind of kindness to Chris, it's safe to assume that she might have been in some kind of danger. Julie took the time to express her concerns about the potential forthcoming attack that had likely render her bruised, pregnant, or even worse, possibly dead. I mean, none of the outcomes could possibly be seen as good, but you get the idea. Regardless, Julie had remarked that she had seen cars outside her house that were driven by Asians, which was of the utmost importance because Julie suspected that Clyde was of Asian descent. Chris tried his best to be a gentleman here, saying that he'll do whatever he can to protect Julie from outside forces, as if he'll jump in front of an oncoming barrage of bullets and they'll just bounce off of his gargantuan gut, shielding Julie from an unfortunate early demise.
Yes, but he's able to follow me. I think I've seen the car around my house with someone Asian in it. I think Clyde is Asian. I'm worried. He looked at me with an evil glare. I'm worried. I think he was half Asian, actually. I'm just really scared that if I try and leave my house, he's gonna do awful things to me. Awful, horrible things to me. I'm scared, Chris.
I hear you. I feel for you. You're scared too.
But, as the conversation continued to move forward, Julie announced that there was someone outside of her house, approaching, with possible malicious intent. She cowered down and informed Chris that she might actually be in danger. Chris tried to play that he was worried for her, but he also didn't seem to take it too seriously. Not because he suspected that something was afoot, like say, a troll was currently trying to pull the wool over his eyes, but rather that his ability to interpret and respond adequately to negative situations was less than optimal. Thankfully, it was just a salesman, meaning that Julie was safe for now. Clyde's influence could be felt during this conversation, meaning that he might just show up again real soon. We shall see.
Yes, I do see someone outside of my house. I don't know who it is.
Just try not to think about it.
I won't.
I mean, it's not like he's. I mean, it's not holding it. It does not look like he's holding a gun, is he?
I'm not sure. He's holding something. I'm worried.
So just best not to try not to think about it.
Someone's pounding on my door.
Someone's pounding on your door.
I'm going to go lock it. I'm worried, Chris. I'm going to go lock it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was... I looked outside, Chris.
Uh-huh.
It turns out it was a salesman.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
a relief.
I acted so silly.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's only human. You're only human.
Now that the dust had settled and the two were seemingly safe once again to discuss adult matters, Julie brought up the topic of the two's first time together sexually, which was undeniably a topic that Chris was quite interested in. He pondered what the experience would be like to finally lose his godforsaken virginity to a boyfriend-free girl. Or rather, I guess she wouldn't be boyfriend-free if she was receiving the pendulous penis of a politician like Mr. Chandler, carefully detailing the supposed activities the couple would engage in. Remember, Julie aka BlueSpike is an underage kid during these conversations, videos, because I gotta keep beating you over the head with it, and it really didn't seem like BlueSpike was all that interested in keeping his voice low so as to not be heard by his family. That makes me question where the hell his parents were. If they were home, how did they not hear any of this? Did they not care? Did the conversation only happen when they were away? Which troll thought it'd be acceptable to knowingly have someone this young be a part of a discussion like this with a grown person? There's a lot of major issues with what was going on here, and there's no positive angle to look at it from. It's all fucked from top to bottom.
Chris, can I ask you something?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. How do you think our first time would...
I do the best I can. Hopefully not prematurely ejaculate.
I hope not. I want to enjoy it as much as I can.
But certainly I would try my best to make it as satisfactory as possible. I mean, I've watched a lot of pornography, educational, or just sets, and I've learned from that.
I see. What position do you think you like best? Can I ask?
I don't know, cowgirl.
The conversation gets worse and worse, as the sexual topics only become more gratuitous as they continue to exchange ideas, or rather Chris just laid out the many things that he had witnessed in pornography that made him get all hot and bothered. I'm not gonna make you sit through all of it, but I think this next bit here is just shocking enough to make you question the moral standing of the people that were trying to destroy the life of Chris. Not that he wasn't making himself into a target, of course.
By the way, I would be wearing a condom. So, either way, while I'm wearing it, I could lay it out while inside you and be protected, or I could, pull it out and just lay it out onto your bosom, or into your mouth. Whatever you want. I'll give you a burn necklace, or I'll just feed it to you.
Lastly, before we move on to the next mumble chat, Clyde appeared again, and the expected outcome occurred. He made ominous comments about coming to harm Julie, made a remark about the alleged salesman that pounded on Julie's door, and even got into a heated debate with Sonichu's father. Clyde did, however, suggest that he was going to use his extremely frightening powers to inflict harm upon Julie if Chris didn't meet his demand. And this demand in particular, mind you, was that Chris had to finally come out of the closet.
I'll give you a 2-day reprieve. Just make a video to YouTube, 3 minutes, proclaiming your love for men, how gay you are, and I'll give you a 3-day break to try to save Julie. While I go smoke some weed or something. If you don't do it within the next 3 hours, we'll see Julie's funeral in a few weeks then. Alright? You understand me?
You shut up. Clyde, you shut up. I'm straight.
You just gotta make videos on YouTube. I want to destroy your image. And if you don't do it, I don't want to kill Julie. Just maybe cut off an arm.
Chris didn't want to risk Julie being harmed by Clyde, because we all know that Clyde has a history of being violent and oh so cruel. Problem is, well, Chris isn't gay, or at least that's what he says anyway. This entire debacle made him incredibly uncomfortable, but he made the video that Clyde requested, for the most part.
You know, the word gay tends to be thrown around a lot, especially when one's words is heavily understood one way or understood another way. I respect my fellow man, and I have some feelings for the man as well. But, yeah, in a nutshell, I have to come out of the closet. And so, one closet, simply put, and I'm willing to say this in sound mind and body, I am a Gabian. Yep, you heard me. I am a gay. A male lesbian. Thank you.
Chris is visibly uncomfortable during the entirety of this video. Something to note is that Chris is holding a toy of Optimus Prime, and a Sailor Moon poster is visible in the background. In Chris's eyes, these two things represented his unshakable heterosexuality, and their mere presence in the upload would signal that not only did he maintain his stance on being straight, but he was also being forced to proclaim that he was gay against his will. The real glaring issue, however, was that Chris didn't say gay in the way that his nemesis had demanded. So it goes without saying that male-identified lesbianism is a bunch of nonsense, and because of this, Chris didn't meet the mark. The video was not satisfactory as far as Clyde was concerned, who scolded Chris in a second mumble call the same night, demanding that Chris redo this screw-up of a video or else Julie was gonna get it. Chris moaned and groaned, irritated that doing the bare minimum and trying to sneak in symbols of his straightness wasn't going to cut it. Even then, despite his whining, he left the chat and went to redo the video one last time.
I'm good. I'm gay. I'm gay.
The next mumble chat occurred on the 6th of February, and this was just Chris and Clyde arguing back and forth about Clyde's requests and how Chris was continually failing to meet them. Clyde was beating Chris over the head with the fact that not only is he a target for manipulation, but he's also incredibly naive, Chris's least favorite word, and too stupid to even do anything right, being seen as nothing more than an autistic horn dog. There were discussions about other sagas, like the events of the meeting with Miyamoto and what have you, but the most important thing in this conversation, at least in regards to Julie, was that Clyde made a new demand of Chris. He wanted him to destroy his possessions in order to keep his heart suite safe. Chris, being the obsessive hoard collector that he is, didn't want to consider getting rid of his toys or video games to make sure his woman was safe, because that'd mean he'd actually have to be proactive about something. Instead, he searched up and down his room, looking for something he could safely part with in hopes of avoiding an aching heart. After a bit of searching, he settled on finally eradicating that adult toy that I mentioned earlier.
Dun dun dun.
Rather than actually destroy it, Chris opted to disassemble it. Maybe he didn't want to part with that either. It probably feels better in his butt than his fingers do. I mean, hell, it vibrates. Meanwhile, Chris was still communicating with Julie behind the scenes, and on the 5th and 6th of February, the two would discuss how Julie wasn't convinced that Panda Halo could be trusted, how the coming out videos had actually affected Chris, and what he did to maintain his heterosexuality during them. Max had recently changed Julie's login info for the PlayStation Network, but despite this, Max eventually gave Julie's PSN back to her as a reward for Chris, the mayor of CWCVille, for finally admitting that he was openly gay. Chris was likely elated because this meant that he could continue to go on virtual dates with a woman he believed was ready and willing to receive his mighty tallywhacker, minus, appearing to be gay. A mumble chat happened on February 7th, where Clyde grilled Chris about his inability to provide for himself, let alone anybody else. This call perfectly demonstrates just how badly Chris misunderstood the buying power of $1. Chris was convinced that if he saved $100 a month, he'd be able to stretch that amount out to take care of his immediate family. Now, even back then, $100 wouldn't last a month unless you were providing for just yourself and you survive on the literal bare minimum, basically living like a homeless person. It simply wasn't possible with the amount of expenses that a functioning adult has. Not just groceries, but bills, payments for services, that kind of stuff. Everything you need to just get by in society has a pretty efficient way of stacking up. Chris completely disregarded the logic that Clyde lovingly bestowed upon him, but did anybody truly expect anything less? This topic was also brought up in a mumble chat just a few days later on February 10th, but it was largely the same.
I mean, it's not just controlling your spending. You can do that easily. The thing is, you need more than $800 a month. Way more to support a family.
Maybe so, but at least I'll have some money tucked away before I start that family up.
And how much do you have tucked away right now?
I have about $100 tucked away right now.
How much do you think it costs to feed 2 adults, I'm saying you and Julie, for a week?
I'd say probably about somewhere between 20 and 50.
Conversations on Skype with Julie continued to persist for the time being, and from the 7th to the 11th of February, Chris expressed his desire to see Julie's identification card and face. Alongside all of this, he had recently received a letter from Nintendo. Chris revealed to Julie that he had learned that he was not actually in contact with Miyamoto, and the entire supposed business venture between him and Nintendo was a farce put together by the trolls. Aside from this, Chris wanted to verify that Julie was who she said she was. I mean, that is fair considering the amount of times that he had been duped up to this point, but I also think it'd be smarter if he just demanded some kind of tangible proof before she comes out there. At this point, it's ID or bust, or she could turn on her camera during a video call on Skype. It just seems like a no-brainer, you know? Chris also requested that Julie speak to him on PSN rather than other services because he felt vulnerable being in lewd chats with her on Mumble or even Skype. I was never much of a PlayStation guy despite owning a PS3, but if I had to guess, it was probably easier for him to chat on there so we could easily play Little Big Planet or PlayStation Home while conversing with his gal pal. This also means that I'm going to have to sift through even more logs. Yay for me. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, PS Home was similar to Second Life in quite a few ways. I wonder if people ever got freaky on there. But I also can't help but imagine people having cybersex through text or voice chat while the characters idly stare at each other. Oh, to go back to simpler times. Sorry, I just got distracted by my fleeting thoughts. Anyway, the relationship between Julie and Chris was blossoming into something, well, not exactly as beautiful as a flower, but certainly something. The conversations would continue on Mumble on February 10th, 2009. Chris was still reeling from the news that he was not actually in contact with Miyamoto, so maybe he could tend to his fresh wounds by conversing with his true and honest fans about what was going on in his neck of the woods. Something worth noting here is that Julie pressed Chris on why he dislikes gay people so much. I'm sure those of you watching or listening are quite well acquainted with Chris's interpretation of theology. He's a Christian, or he was anyway, and most Christians aren't exactly big fans of consenting adults doing things to each other in private that don't align with their religious views. Why does God Jesus care so much about people rubbing their junk together? No idea, but Chris took the scripture to heart and refused to get close to any person that might just possibly be gay. He seemed almost worried that if he were to talk to a gay man, that the guy would hold him down and forcefully have his way with him. Maybe he was not only scared of that, but maybe he thought that if he was entered by somebody of that lifestyle that he too would discover that he wasn't straight. Who knows? All we can assume is that his views of homosexuality must have changed on some level considering the life he leads today. His true feelings are almost always a mystery, but he does seem to be more accepting, even though it seems like he does it more so because it's socially beneficial for him.
What is so wrong with homos? I mean, I know that you don't exactly like them, but what's wrong with having just a few homosexual buddies? They're not gonna, they're, good people. You should give at least one a chance.
You see, I'm going to associate, and I'll respect them, but it's just like, I don't want to be too close.
No, he says, the thing is, they won't go near a straight man. They can tell that you're straight. Don't worry, if you just give one a chance and try and be friends with them. Maybe play some Guitar Hero. Maybe play some Little Big Planet. Have some fun. Not try and... Just try and have fun with them. Just try it for me. Can you please do that? Just try for me.
Well, it depends if I ever meet one.
The more I listen to the conversation that BlueSpike was a part of, the more I start to notice major discrepancies in the narrative that he was pushing. Yes, we've already established that Chris was being trolled here, but something I've noticed here is that BlueSpike never really bothered to change his accent or his way of speaking, often just talking ever so slightly softer when he was Julie. If Julie and Max are from the same disheveled third world country that struggles with dental hygiene, then I would have to assume that they'd be, heavily accented. BlueSpike certainly wouldn't sound like a Westerner. Now granted, it's also very obvious that Chris was oblivious to the glaring issues, but this is something I personally find to be quite entertaining. Clyde Cash had to show up and make his appearance. You'd think that Chris would have looked into having a band by now, but what are you gonna do? Clyde confronted Chris about a variety of things, particularly how ill-equipped he would be to take on being the breadwinner of a household and provide for both himself and Julie. This includes his laziness, like his inability to efficiently clean his hovel of a room. Alongside all of this, there was also a discussion of his monstrous credit card debt and whether or not Chris had paid taxes. Of course, Chris being Chris, he confused sales and income tax, saying that he paid the latter but in fact paid the former.
My family helped me manage my taxes, and I don't have that much income to tax.
But when your parents are gone, who's gonna help you do the taxes?
I'll worry about that when I cross that bridge.
Oh, come on. You have to know now. You're 26-year-olds. You must have paid your taxes a couple times. You gotta figure that out, man.
I paid sales tax. We don't need you to,
Chris, Clyde does have somewhat of a point. I am kind of worried about the future.
I'm just trying to help here. If you two went on your crazy-ass marriage, you two would have been divorced in a month. I'm trying to goddamn help. You better answer me.
If Julie was really going to make the trip to Ruckersville, perhaps she'd be better off finding a man there that is a more suitable fit for her potential lover rather than whatever the hell Chris is. The next mumble chat on the following day was largely uneventful. There were discussions about the writing utensils that Chris used to create his illustrious comic series, Julie asked Chris about Billy Mays and he confused him with Tim Allen, and Chris was finally informed as to what Shotokan is. If you're not familiar with that, don't bother looking it up. It's not worth risking your lunch and your sanity. Chris and Julie would move to Skype again on February 12th during a mumble conversation that was being invaded by that dirty dang Clyde. Julie and Chris discussed some of the fan mail that Chris had received, convincing him to create Sonichu and Rosechu's Love Shack, a separate section of his Sonichu branded site where 18+ viewers could swing by and look at some crudely drawn Rule 34 of his OCs, and a good chunk of it was actually traced from other adult images that were already available on the internet. Alongside this, the two discussed how Chris would potentially be able to take care of the both of them, and Chris reassured Julie that not only is he a strong, capable man who is willing to break his back to keep his lady friends safe and comfortable, but God would back him up because he's a good Methodist. Another Skype chat happened on the following day, February 13th, and it was largely sexually charged. Julie was trying to get in Chris's pants to cradle his bent duck, and it appears that Chris must have been on camera or using his microphone to speak because there are very few messages from him in that chat log. Julie tried to convince Chris that she was into farts, smothering, feet, you know the deal. Those three things are what all women truly love, right? The two engaged in some pretty extensive steamy chats that I can't justifiably read out loud on YouTube without running the risk of them putting their authoritative fingers deep inside of me. I don't really want to be treated like I'm a bowling ball, but I will say, however, the things that I have had to read are beyond disgusting. Chris also did admit that he started screwing around with Julie like this after he got over the alleged death of Panda Halo, because he claimed that he had already prepared for the news of her passing after learning of the raging fires in Australia. There was also a bit of cybersex between the two that same night, with Chris and Julie role-playing some kind of furry smut. I'm not sure why, but Chris is convinced that women like to have their genitals shocked with electricity. I'm sure there's at least 3 or 4 freaky ladies out there that want that, but I can only guess that he was supposed to be in his Sonichu form, because everybody knows that Sonic recolors get the ladies all gooey. But it still didn't stop there, because another chat began on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. This was an ample opportunity to really get Christian all sweaty and desperate for physical affection. This being a date that is centered around exchanging romantic gifts for sexual favors, the two would do exactly what you would expect from hormonally driven people. They pretended to knock boots, and Chris probably pulled on his pud just a tiny bit. Outside of this, Chris was a little upset with Julie that she had yet to reveal to her brother Max that she was engaging in such activities with the creator of Sonichu, which to me seems weird because why would somebody's hypothetical sibling need to know about what their other family members were doing in the privacy of their Skype chats? Seems a little, I don't know, off? But that was not the only thing that bewildered me, because at another point, Chris admitted to spewing his goo while playing Animal Crossing City Folk. While I was playing AC City Folk, I even shouted out your name multiple times, but it passed, and I wet myself a little. By wet, does he mean that he leaked a bit of pee, or did he fucking blast some Brogurt in his Transformers briefs? Either one is concerning. I guess I can understand if he's got bladder control issues and he couldn't make it to the bathroom in time, even though that's nasty, but if he splooged, then like, I don't know. What the hell about Animal Crossing made him so excited to do something like that? Perhaps I don't truly want to know. Oh, and before I forget, Chris being the romantic that he is, he made a Valentine's themed level for both him and Julie to play together on Little Big Planet, alongside publishing it to the game's server so that way other couples could enjoy it. Turns out someone had messaged Chris on PSN and informed him that Julie was a male troll, but Chris disregarded the message and continued to share way too much about his personal life. The most important event from this day, however, was when Chris and Julie were busy, well, getting busy. The two were going at it, and BlueSpike opted to record the entire process. During this exchange, though, Bob walked in while Chris was actively strangling his duck. It seems as though Bob might not have realized that his son was busy being a man.
Oh, yeah. So what are you doing? Nothing. I'm getting all these crazy damn calls. What are you doing? Nothing. Give me that crap. Now, what's going on?
Dad, will you get out of here?
No, I will not. People tell me that you're about to kill yourself on YouTube. What? What are you doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm going to wake your mother up and find out? No. Then get out of here, off that internet. Fine. What is your trouble? I I'm not going to kill myself. Get away from that TV. Fine. Get away from the internet. I'm cutting it down right now.
No! Dad, no!
Yes.
No!
What are you doing?
Don't do it, Dad.
I'm going to shut this thing right down.
No!
Yes.
No!
Go wake your mother up. Don't bother me. Go and wake your mother up. You tell her what's going on. This thing is going to go down.
No!
Yes.
By February 15th, BlueSpike or someone close to him had put together a fake love letter that was sent to ChrisChan's home address, including some photos of what he would believe to be Julie. The letter was intentionally made to make it look like a girl in middle school wrote it, with little doodles and very bubbly shaped letters. The message reads as follows, quote, "Dear ChrisChan Sonichu, aka Christian Weston Chandler, I'm writing you a letter like you wanted me to through the snail mail. It's a lot harder to write a letter than it is to type one, but I love you enough that I'll do your request, but email is so much easier, so don't expect me to do this again anytime soon. I also have an important message. As it turns out, I will sadly not be able to make the trip to Virginia. I just don't have the money to get the transportation to go there, so I will not be able to meet you in person unless you can possibly come here instead. Maybe now that you have this letter, you can finally prove to your parents that I'm real and we can meet in person and much, much more if you know what I mean. Meow. 3-phase. I need some real-life milk from my milkman. Also, I'm thinking of attending a little church since you seem to love it so much and I want more things in common between us. I hope you have a good supply of raincoats and I'm sure we're going to run out. Tell me when you get this letter. I hope you enjoy the pics included. A friend took them with their camera and printed them out. With tons of love, Julie Molvania, XOXOXO. P.S. As soon as you receive this letter, please read this letter out loud on a YouTube video, proving to those slanderous trolls that you have a true and honest loving sweetheart. I can't wait to use your face as a chair. Wow, how fucking sweet. I'm sure a letter like this would be the perfect thing Chris could use to justify his love quest to his parents. Imagine him showing this to either Bob or Barb, and them having to put on their reading glasses, holding the letter far away from their face, and reading aloud the sexually charged messages that Julie had allegedly sent to Chris. The following day, on the 16th of February, the couple had their first PlayStation Network chat. This happened while Chris's Aunt Karina was in extremely poor health, and it appeared as though she didn't have long for her mortal coil. Instead of taking the time to prepare himself for the eventual grieving process, he instead opted to discuss threesomes with Julie once again. Julie tried to get Chris to put Barb on the mic, but she was busy being fat and immobile, so that wasn't gonna happen, at least not yet. There were talks of how Chris could get a job and maintain employment, what he was doing daily, such as going to Burger King and IHOP, and all those other bits of minutia that take up Chris's life. This was a largely unimportant conversation, but it did demonstrate that Chris lacked empathy toward the dying because he'd much rather prefer to get his duck wet than worry about his Aunt Karina. I delve more into the nasty stuff they wanted to do, but at the same time, BlueSpike is a kid, so yeah. During this same day, Julie and Chris would also exchange messages over Skype, and while they did break down the moral dilemma of preferring soy milk over normal milk, there were a few key points that showed that the stakes were rising, with Chris finding himself submerged in a boiling hot vat of soy milk. You see, Julie was getting more and more restless, and wanted something hot to make her get off. Chris, there's something I wanted. I just wanted to see a video of you making love to a doll you own, to hold me over until the real thing. Please, I assure you, it will never get out. Nobody except me will see it. I promise you with my heart. Chris being Chris, he obviously didn't realize how dangerous this could be. Only time would tell if he'd ever get around to making this request a reality. The next day, it was revealed that Max had been listening in on Julie and ChrisChan doing their business. I suppose this isn't too far off from what Chris was wanting, her to tell her brother about their antics, but it probably could have been handled a touch more tactfully. I went to take a quick shower. My brother met me outside. He was listening in while I was gone. But he hung up, and the call between you and me was dropped soon after. Oh, he told me, quote, I don't want to hear that sick sex shit again. Oh, then what happened? That's it. Now I'm wondering. We don't have to cybersex anymore. We can hold it in until we are together in person. It's okay, Julie. He may not have heard all the details and jumped to conclusions. Soon after, the two also had another conversation over PSN. As I mentioned before, Chris's aunt was rapidly nearing her demise, with his family being informed that she would likely take her last breath very soon. Chris was upset, but not enough to go visit his family, instead staying home to twiddle his thumbs and talk to his would-be girlfriend. Barb did appear for a brief moment, and BlueSpike made an attempt to get Chris to get Barb on the headset, but this failed. It seemed as though the likelihood of ChrisChan introducing his folks to his lover was dwindling every day.
Yeah. Alright, Mom, I'll talk to you later.
Did you get that, Julie?
Yeah, could you ask your mother if I could talk to her? Because I've wanted to talk to her for a while.
Oh. I'm not sure if she's in the mood, but...
Come on, just ask, please.
So now, ask her.
Ask her if I could talk to her, please, for me. Use spell, summon Snorlax.
Oops. Okay. I'm not going to come all the way over there, Mom. So listen, I'm talking to friend Julie on the PSN network. She wants to say hello to you. I'm not able to talk to you about her. Is she emotional? I am not able to talk to anybody right now. Will you leave the room? Thank you. I'll see you later.
Someone failed.
Thank you, Warren.
But everything kept getting more and more intense, as there was also a mumble chat that same night. Gotta love it. Now, I don't know what the hell the deal is with Chris wanting to get down and dirty with girls by having a three-way, but this topic just kept coming up. And of course, it happened here too. A fangirl named Emily had moseyed her way into the conversation and proposed engaging in some actions with both Chris and Julie.
I heard someone say hi, Chris. It sounded like a female. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, that was me. My name's Emily.
Oh, hi, Emily.
I really like your comics.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I don't understand why you're still saying that, honestly.
Tell me about it. ChrisChan. Oh, but I am, but you know what? I am in love with Julie right there, who just spoke just now. But
Oh, she sounds like she's really pretty.
hey, take that as a compliment, Julie.
Thank you. Maybe we can have threesome.
Oh wow. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, Chris has stated before that he does not want to threesome with two men. Well,
Actually, Julie, I gave it some thought, and I'm willing to do that for you.
Sarah May, a fangirl who was previously interested in participating in adult activities with Chris, popped into the chat. She was also the co-founder of the Sonichu Girls Forum. She had caught wind that Chris was having lewd chats with other girls and took this to heart, because she desperately wanted to be on the receiving end of Chris's pecker. Because of everything that was transpiring, she suicide baited to trigger an emotional response from Chris, who was remarkably unmoved.
I can't believe this.
I can't believe it either.
You don't even have to say anything because you just showed me your true feelings. You don't even care about me.
Sarah, I do care about you.
You just want to talk to Julie right now, don't you?
No, I want to talk to you. I want to help you feel better, Sarah.
You've already been trying.
I am trying, Sarah. I'm sorry. I messed up, and I feel bad about it too.
But you keep messing up. You just keep doing it. And I think I'm gonna do something really bad.
No, Sarah, don't do anything bad. Don't hurt yourself, Sarah.
I think I'm going to.
No, don't do that. You got lots to live for.
I feel like killing myself or
No, Sarah,
killing
no.
myself.
No, Sarah, don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself.
I feel like nothing is worth living for anymore because
Sarah, there are a lot of things in life worth living for.
Chris went through the motions. I mean, how could he possibly ever prepare to hear one of his true and honest fangirls bite the bullet? This would put a tremendous amount of stress on anybody, so it's understandable that he was feeling a bit sad. Well, as much as his lack of empathy would allow. Julie tried to console Chris, metaphorically patting him on the back as he came to terms with yet another person he didn't actually know going the way of the dodo.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. Oh, this is my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, Julie. I made a promise I did not realize then I couldn't keep. And now I just made things worse. At least 2 or 5 times I said your name instead of Sarah's.
Chris, it's okay. We'll get through this together. Don't worry.
February 18th proved itself to be a particularly eventful day for ChrisChan. It started off simply with some PSN chats between the usuals. The first chat is pretty great because we got two wonderful nuggets of information out of Chris. Firstly, he claimed that he was hearing voices in his head that were telling him that he's gay. He was under the impression that if he happened to view an image of a penis or witness one too many gay scenes from adult films, that he would immediately start suffering from a ravenous hunger for Navy. That's right. Chris really thought that his brain was going to be reprogrammed by Globo Homo by looking at one too many ding-dongs. The voice he heard, though, is probably the icing on the cake. I can't even fathom getting sexually harassed by my own inner monologue.
Tell me about the random thoughts you've been having, please.
Just basically told them the ones that tried to turn, the ones that that turned me off because they were gay. Like I would get randomly an image of a penis in my head.
Oh, can you describe it more to me, please? I wasn't there to listen.
Okay, well, sometimes, I'm not sure whether it's mine or not. It's just like a random penis, it could have been mine, or it could have been one I saw in one of the porno movies I've seen. And anyway, aside from that, I also get random audio and word thoughts between my audio and my photographic memory, where it's like, other people saying, Christian is gay.
What did I say?
Christian is gay.
Do you really think you're gay?
No, I do not. I'm straight.
Then you are straight.
Secondly, they once again just had to talk about Chris putting things inside of his body. I don't think I really need to explain this one all that much, so I'll allow Chris to have the honors. It only makes sense, right? He is the star of the show, after all.
Okay, well, I bought the love dolls as my practice for when I actually do it with a real woman.
Alright.
And the anal beads was one free gift that came with one of the dolls. Because, at AdamandEve.com, they give you like a free gift or a free DVD with every order over $15, $20.
Chris?
And then the dildo was another free gift.
You can tell me the truth.
I am telling you the truth.
Did you ever use any of those things? It's okay if you did. I just want to be able to... I want you to be able to come clean to me. Please.
Alright, I'll tell you confidentiality. I put a condom on the dildo, and I actually did put up my a-hole. And in my humble opinion, it just did not feel right to me. And the anal beads, I just put them in there, and it's like, not so swift. So I think it was just that one time, and then they got covered in poo, and then I just...
Sorry.
In the trash can.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Lastly, Julie did try to convince Chris to take better care of himself. This is something that has happened many times over the course of several sagas, where trolls try to use their influence to encourage Chris to do things that would actually benefit him in the long run, such as exercising. This is something Chris has rarely attempted to do. Even then, he only promised to stand up more often for Julie. Imagine having such a warped understanding of the world that you assume standing up will somehow burn as many calories as actually working out. Old Chris's lunacy is oddly endearing, if you subtract all the other completely asinine nonsense from it. Maybe I'm wrong for feeling this way, but someone like Chris who's clearly not well informed about the world and the complexities of sexuality probably doesn't need to have access to adult toys or movies. Granted, yes, he is an adult, but he's mentally a child, a very deranged one at that. His parents should have taken more of a stand against him trying to be a pervert. Perhaps if they did, he wouldn't have done so many backwards and foolish things. But then again, Chris did inform his mother about how he'd masturbate, so I don't know.
And aside from that, I am definitely still a virgin. And over the course of the time, I did confide in my mother and tell her about my masturbation history there, and that sort of thing. My mom is more open-minded about the subject, but my father is because he's much older and possibly more strict. more close-minded on the subject.
This conversation would somehow move along to the topic of race, which to nobody's surprise Chris has a skewed view of. Chris's parents exhibited many clear signs of racism over the years, and that's likely because of their upbringing and what have you, meaning they most likely passed on their learned hateful rhetoric onto their impressionable son. He had to learn it from somewhere, right? Why they chose to pass along feelings of contempt for people that were different from them when their own son was different from most people is beyond me. They could have taught him how to be self-sufficient or how to clean his room, or how to properly attract women, or how to actually apply himself in school, the list could go on. But no. They had to teach him the other thing. It's safe to say that his parents failed him in numerous shocking ways. However, as they continued to chat about a litany of other topics, Bob got onto the horn and had a chance to talk to Julie. And he too was under the impression that he wasn't talking to a young boy, but rather a young adult female. Granted, I think I can forgive Bob for being unable to ascertain that BlueSpike was a troll because he was in his 80s at this point. However, I do have to draw attention to one really funny part about this call. Bob claimed to be incredibly world conscious, having witnessed so much change happen around him and across the globe over his many decades of existing. Because of the radical change that was happening, he initially didn't believe in the existence of Molvania, but he changed his tune once he believed he and ChrisChan had found it on a map. I'm not entirely sure what country they confused for Molvania, but sure, why not?
Hello.
Hello. That's Julie Molvania. She came all the way from Molvania. Molvania. We were just looking at it on the map. It's for your information, I look at the map with you, and the Czechoslovakia Republic looks like the outline of the Molvanian map I saw on the internet, so I could be wrong. Anyway, it's next to probably former part of the former Soviet Union, the USSR. It's nice to explain. It's gypsy country.
Ah.
You have any gypsy violins there?
Yeah, I see.
I can't help but feel like not seeing the country on the map would have been an indicator that the nation might not actually exist. In fact, if they didn't have an up-to-date map, the internet would have been their best option. If they had just looked up the supposed country's name, they'd discover it's from a humorous book and didn't actually exist. Overall, this conversation was quite positive and shed a lot of light on who Bob was and the experiences he'd had. If you'd like to know more about him, I've got a full video dedicated to retelling the tale of Bob Chandler if you search for it on my channel. It seemed like Bob was quite supportive of Chris finally having a girl that he could be involved with, even if he was unsure of his son's ability to be a reliable narrator. He even divulged in Chris's ignorance of the world and objective reality during this conversation, making it clear that Bob knew his son was essentially destined to be a burnout. Later that same evening, Chris sent Julie a video of him making sweet, sweet love to his blow-up doll Kimmy. The fact that this video existed and was sent to Julie meant that the clip was going to be leaked online in due time, as per the nature of the internet. This video, man, wow, it totally changed my perspective of Chris's trolling as a whole. I mean, think about this for a second. We've already established that BlueSpike was a kid who was roped into having heinous chats with a renowned Lolcow, but not only were they engaging in lewd topics, but Chris was actually sending homemade films to the child. Chris was unknowingly breaking the law and also embarrassing himself in a way that would undoubtedly haunt him until his last breath. This is one of those instances where the trolling, while admittedly hilarious, is also unusually extreme. Luckily for you, YouTube once again stands between me and ruining your precious dignity by introducing you to the actual video, unless you've already seen it, at which point I'm being redundant. But anyway, we're instead going to listen to Chris's laborious sighs and grunts as he takes his inflatable partner to Pound Town while his Sonic toys watch in agony.
Julie! Julie! Yeah, Julie! I'm ready to go! Julie! 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 Julie!
Weirdly enough, Chris made sure to wear a rubber during the recording. I guess maybe he didn't want to risk catching something from Kimmy, or maybe he was worried that he'd put a baby in her, but I'd have to assume in reality he wanted to save raw action for some well-deserved hanky-panky with a gal pal. But, because this is Chris we're talking about, the video inevitably got leaked to the wider internet, much to the chagrin of Chris. This video would continue to haunt Chris and his family for quite some time, with Weens calling the Chandler's landline to harass Chris, only to actually yell "Julie" into the phone while Bob was on the receiving end. This video is arguably one of the most significant significant pieces of media that Chris has ever produced. One would assume after a catastrophic leak of him plowing a rubber lover that he'd think twice about sending something lewd over the internet in the future, but newsflash, he didn't learn a goddamn thing. Something else I'd like to point out before we move along is how Julie convinced Chris to say the line "Ich bin schwul" under the guise of it meaning "I love you" in Molvanian, when in actuality it means "I am gay" in German. Chris would often say this to Julie to demonstrate his love for her. Oh, what a sap. The next Skype chat between Chris and Julie occurred on February 20th. Chris's aunt Karina had passed away and Chris was going through the motions, at least as much as he possibly could given his general lack of empathy. He expressed that he was hoping her funeral would not be on his birthday, which is fair, but not because it's a special day for him, but rather his church congregation was going to have a pancake dinner that day and he didn't want to miss it. I'm sure being told that you're going to hell while your mouth is full of a mass of pancakes and syrup is great. What a wonderful way to spend the evening, on your birthday no less. Chris had also received Julie's letter and was over the moon after seeing her pictures. It never seemed to occur to him that once again, a girl that was grossly out of his league was hitting on him and how that was just a little weird. I suppose I shouldn't be shocked if he lacks pattern recognition. The two also discussed how his parents were somewhat unsure of Julie, which is more than a fair response on their part. While Bob was more or less convinced that Julie was real, despite, Molvania not existing on any map ever, Barb on the other hand was highly skeptical of what Chris had been relaying to her. She had taken note of the drama that Chris's previous relationships had brought to their household and likely understood that her future romantic partner had difficulty keeping his nose clean. Well, that and she probably had a pretty firm grasp on the fact that random people on the internet can impersonate anybody and most folks would be none the wiser. The important thing, though, is that Julie shared her alleged address with Chris, because for obvious reasons he was not going to be able to expect her to arrive in the streets of Ruckersville, and he'd likely have to make a trip with his parents. Chris being Chris, he needed permission from his folks before he could go anywhere. Something to keep in mind is that during the conversation with Bob and Julie, he mentioned that his son was not all that familiar with the outside world. Chris mostly knew his way around town, but anything beyond the local area was totally foreign to him. BlueSpike and the other trolls likely took note of this, concocting a plan to get Chris outside of his comfort zone and far away from home. Chris would continue to try to convince his parents to talk to Julie, mostly just to make his mother believe that she was who she claimed to be, so that way maybe mommy or daddy would aid him on his voyage outside of the confines of Virginia. But now, the story is going to start picking up. While there were already some humorous events that led to this point, the trolls were really looking to up the ante in ways that hadn't been done before. So, during another Skype chat on February 23rd, the first real signs of trouble, at least on a grander scale, began to surface. Chris was starting to feel uneasy about everything going on. Not enough to remove himself from the situation, but enough to express confusion and concern about the legitimacy of Julie's claims. He had confirmed that his father had found Moldavia or Moldova, depending on the age of the map they were using, because even Chris wasn't entirely sure. Either way, he somewhat understood that things didn't seem to line up, but instead of consulting Professor Google and using reputable sources to debunk any of her claims, Chris instead opted to go right along with what she said. You grew up in Lagodeki, which is the capital of Molvania. I've typed in Lagodeki, just as your friend said earlier. It was at the eastern edge of Georgia. Actually, come to think of it, it's more of a verification of my own findings. Molvania was east of Georgia, yes? I mean, when my father was trying to find Molvania on his maps, he found some theories of his own. He confused Moldavia, or something like that, for Molvania, so this will be good for his findings. Hey, maybe if he believes hard enough, Quickville and Gorgon will appear on the map. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, right? This conversation would go south sometime after, as Julie disappeared without a trace for a bit, as Chris kept sending her message after message after message. Soon after this, BlueSpike became active again, only this time it wasn't Julie on the line. Hello, Chris. There you are. This is Max. Oh, Julie's brother? I bet you were excited just now. Julie chose to take a nap. Okay, I suggest you join Mumble. You may find it in your best interest. What's going on? You may find it in your best interest. I'd hurry. We're not very patient. I'll be there shortly. Hurry up, Chandler. I understand. I've got to clean up the mess you started. Oh, it's more than that. I see you found out what I've done. Angered, Chrissy? Why can't you see the kind human being that I am? Because the things you do. I have cared for all my women very much. The awful way you act in attempts to get a mate, a boyfriend-free girl. It sickens me that you'd be that way. I don't even know why my sister would want you. Look, Julie asked me herself to make that video, and I did as she wished, because I cared and respected her wishes, because she cares about me deeply and she respects me truly, and I care and respect her in the same way truly. It's too late now, Chris. I'm taking Julie to Clyde. Maybe you can convince me to do otherwise. Come back and mumble. You have 5 minutes. Look, I plan on spending my good money and drive to her in your house. I'd hurry. Talk to my leader, Clyde. Answer him. I'm driving Julie there now, Chris. Heh. Any last words before I depart? Leave her be. Do not drive her anywhere. Scared and unsure of what was going to happen, Chris followed Max to mumble. Could this be the epic final confrontation between Clyde and Chris? Would they finally settle their differences and learn to accept each other how they are? Perhaps they'd share a soft, delicate kiss after reconciling. Pfft, come on, this is Chris. Nothing sensible ever happens in his story. The miscreants were waiting in the server for him, like an occult group of internet users that were gathered for a ceremonial sacrifice of the Virgin with rage. Clyde shared that Panda Halo was not dead, and instead was residing at Clyde's place, serving as his concubine. Once again, Chris's world was revealed to be an elaborate play by trolls that had way too much free time.
And can't you remember Blanca, the one who destroyed your medallion? Remember?
Yeah.
All part of the miscreants, Chris. And the latest member, Stella McKenzie. Or, you know her as Panda. She's not dead. She's alive, at my side. Kinda sleeping right now, I can't be talking so loud. Anyway, yes, I can't believe you fell for her.
Clyde and Chris exchanged dialogue like two esteemed rivals from a fictional story, as though they had finally crossed paths again after a series of interwoven events. Clyde, as per usual, was not even remotely intimidating, but Chris still took this to heart. He likely saw himself as some kind of hero, as though he'd be able to reach through his microphone and strangle that dastardly Clyde.
We've been here from the beginning. Do you know why, Chris?
They're trying to make a slander out of me and a fool? Or just to pick on me?
What? Make
Or
a
just a
slander?
pick on me?
No, the goal is to make sure you never get laid. That is the goal of the miscreant.
Virginia is for virgins.
Our goal is that you are a virgin forever.
Why do you all have to pick on me like this?
You don't care about women.
I do care about women.
And you
Why do we
are a
have
disgusting
females
pig.
in our operation against you?
I know y'all are doing it, or have been doing this just for the laughs against me.
Yeah.
But don't y'all have
This
to...
is far more than laughs, ChrisChan.
This is serious.
You're a foul, stinking pig that must be eradicated from this earth.
No, he must not be eradicated. He must be made an example of a horrible man, destined to never to ever have a wife or even girlfriend.
Shut up! Why do you have to pick on me like this? You don't need to do this. Don't y'all have lives of your own? Can't you go find your own sweethearts to do with? And I don't even
Why do you
care.
think the sweetheart will solve everything?
Chris.
Why do you think the sweetheart will solve everything?
We have our own sweethearts.
Look,
We must protect the women from you.
Look, I care about the women for their own personalities. I
No,
care
you
all
don't.
my life.
No, you don't. You gave
Yes,
up
I
on
do.
our
Lies.
with it.
Bullshit.
Yes, I do respect women.
Chris left the chat shortly after the exchange began, mostly because Clyde was being a tad bit rude, but his unfunny cabal of weens wouldn't shut the fuck up and just let the two duke it out verbally. Clyde knew that Chris would return soon enough once he learned that Julie was in danger. One of the members, Arjun, whose name I probably just mispronounced, had told Chris that they wanted him to die, which also likely contributed to Chris dipping from the chat. Clyde and the other trolls immediately started to beat Chris over the head with accusations, such as him not trying anything that's in his life, and that he didn't care about the passing of his dear Aunt Karina, and of course, just how much money Chris spent on video games and related paraphernalia. All of these things really shouldn't matter to the trolls because they're just constants in Chris's life. Chris has always been unempathetic toward other people, at least from what has been observed, but things like his spending habits or how lazy he is ultimately just affects himself. It's unreasonable to believe that Chris would be able to actually achieve some kind of healthy relationship. But then again, I suppose that all comes undone with the existence of Flutter and Chris's more recent sightings, but who knows really? I've just always found it bizarre that people thought trying to teach Chris a lesson while they were antagonizing him was actually going to solve anything. If they actually wanted to help, they'd be genuine. But at the same time, he also didn't want any help. Such an unusual situation, really. The comment about his Aunt Karina, however, seemed to trigger an emotional response from Chris. Some have tried to suggest that his crying was nothing more than a ploy to get the outcome he wanted from the situation, but I'm not entirely sure. Chris can be tricky to read at times, and at that moment, not being able to see him made it very difficult to validate any suspicions. Take his response to the comments as you will.
And I have to go to her funeral, and I'm going to be very sad that day. And it's happening. The funeral is happening on my birthday of all days.
Shouldn't you be more sad about her than your birthday?
I am very upset about my Aunt Karina. She was a very sweet woman.
But you seem to complain about it being on your birthday.
Look, stop talking about that, okay? Well, I love my Aunt.
Don't take this.
I feel sympathy for my Aunt Karina. She smoked, and and when she went to the hospital, she died at the age of 75. Her cancer deteriorated her left lung and her liver and her brain.
That's right, Leon. Go ahead. Sure. Why not?
And they kept her alive for as long as they could until she breathed the last breath. I hear that she was dying. I hear that she died. The only good thing that came by was that I was able to tell her I loved her last time. I'm on the phone.
I wonder if any of the people involved felt sick to their stomach at this point. Then again, I suppose they didn't care about other nasty things they'd done in passing, so who really knows? In the wake of all the ribbing, the trolls discussed what they should do, what direction they should take next. Most agreed that it was imperative that they update BlueSpike on the latest developments, because now the ball was really rolling. As such, Chris was summoned back to the Mumble chat by his true and honest fans that just so happened to want to help Chris rescue Julie. He discussed all of the latest developments with them, and talked about Julie's recent relocation to Cleveland, Ohio at the clutches of the dastardly and despicable Clyde Cash. After all, Chris somehow believed that there was a real headquarters for an evil trolling cabal that was hyper-focused on preventing him from getting laid.
Matt's Julie's brother, pretty much spirited away Julie, took her to the HQ, to the headquarters, where the miscreants, I think they were called, are. And now Matt wants me to come over to Cleveland within the next 5 days to pick up Julie from the headquarters, and I'm just trying to find out what Clyde is planning, if he's going to try to force me in jail or hurt me or anything like that.
The fans told Chris that the best option for him was to head out to Cleveland and try to find Julie, rescue her from Clyde, and bring her back to the safety of his parents' trash-filled home. Clyde was just full of crap and was just trying to bait him out, right? Chris was understandably concerned that he could get hurt, because going out and meeting a person from the internet, especially those that openly dislike you, could mean that something dangerous is waiting for you. That or, he'd get thrown in jail or something, because that makes sense. He really thought that was a possibility. Chris's skepticism of everything at this moment makes sense here, and he also added that his parents were concerned about the legitimacy of everything happening. Considering the cartoon levels of lunacy that have surrounded Chris's recent attempts at courting women, it's safe to assume that something might be off.
I see.
Yeah, I think he's lying.
I think that if you actually go up there, it will show him that you were very serious about, your feelings towards Julie. Mm-hmm. I had a whole big list of things I was about to say now, and they all just went boom. So just to cut to the chase here and say just go for it, and I'm pretty sure if anything, Clyde would actually shake your hand and say congratulations, you've finally done it.
Yeah, you should go and show him that you truly care about your sweetheart.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you see, one thing is, I understand that it's like a 400-mile, 7-hour drive, according to MapQuest, between my address and Matt's address. Yeah, well, Julie is living with Matt's, her older brother. Yeah, but anyway, I'm still feeling like a bit insecure about the trip, especially since, even though I am an adult, I should respect my mother's and my father's wishes, and still a little bit on the, still gonna need a few dollars to get me to Cleveland.
Barb was apparently a major hurdle in this mission to stop Clyde from harming Julie, with her putting her foot down to everything that was happening. Chris expressed this as her being jealous that he loved another woman more than her. Oh, how foreboding and terrifying those words are now. There was also the off chance that Julie was a minor and this was some kind of sting operation. She was almost on the money, I'll give her that.
There you go, you have no problem, man.
But listen, that's another thing that, my mom, my mom is like, she's gonna be telling me, don't go. I worry about you. And she watched a lot of television. It's like I've been trying to convince her to let me go to Julie in Cleveland.
Chris, I think you have to show your mom that you truly love Julie.
Yeah, but then my mom is also a bit jealous of me loving another woman more than her. I understand she's in a situation like cut the umbilical cord, you would say, I'm sure. But still, I have to respect my mother very much. Yeah, but also, she does worry about me, and bet that, I could be set up to be hurt or turn into the police and arrested when I get there.
What would you do? What would you do that you have to be taken by the police?
Yeah. Also, it's like same thing happened before when I was about to go to Blanca. My mom didn't want me to go because it could have been a setup. They were setting me up she would have been underage, and then right there would be turned into the police.
That's entrapment, Chris.
Chris would later step away to try to convince his mother to come upstairs and talk to his fans, so that way she'd understand and let him onto the interstate with a few $100s. Unfortunately for everyone, she was asleep, to nobody's shock. Max could be heard laughing diabolically in the chat, and Chris immediately recognized that shrill cackle.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I just went downstairs to see if I could bring my mom up here so she could talk to y'all, but she's asleep right now.
Polly, check the left side.
What the?
Wait a minute. Just a moment ago, did I just hear Max, who quotes himself as who named himself Julie's brother? Did he just give an evil laugh?
I think so.
Looks like it.
Yeah, so that just kind of brings up suspicion right there. I'm just doing. You did not have to mute him. I wanted to hear what he had to say. Aside from the laughing. Oh, he just told me on Skype he's watching Family Guy.
Not long after, Clyde entered the call to give Chris an early birthday message, with Christian finally standing up to Clyde, letting him know that he would do what he could to save his internet girlfriend.
Yeah, but basically I'm allowed to pick up Julie over at your headquarters.
Sure, if you can do that. I don't know if you can drive or anything. Driving's must be hard for you.
Yeah, well, I can't. Yeah, well, as I have told these nice people, I'm going to talk to my mother some more and put my foot down and, make my own, and hopefully I'll have the money I'll need for the gas I need for the trip. And, within the next few days I will come down to Cleveland and pick up Julie myself.
The conversation didn't go far, and Chris promised to make his way down to Cleveland as soon as he could. He just needed to get something in his belly, get a good bit of sleep before the funeral, and then afterward his primary objective would be to save his lady friend. This is arguably one of the most character-defining moments for Chris. He thinks he's about to set foot on a journey to finally end his godforsaken love quest and potentially extinguish the trolling that had followed him for so many painful years. And, he'd saved Julie, and that was the morally right thing to do. In actuality, he was just being led on, being deprived of just enough enjoyment to the point of manipulating his decision-making. The trolls knew that with the right configuration of words, they'd be able to get him to do just about anything they wanted. Nevertheless, Christian bid them adieu for now.
Okay. Alright, well listen, I gotta go get something to eat, so, and then I should rest up for the funeral, so... Alright, so another time I'll come back into the normal. But, shortly after I will, shortly after the funeral, I will be coming down to Cleveland, and I will pick Julie up, and I will have her and me spend a little time together, maybe over at Max's house, and then I will be bringing her back here to my house.
Okay, if you do make it, I'll give you a box of chocolates. Okay, a box of chocolates.
You don't have to give me anything. Maybe just a handshake and a promise that you disband this organization and that you won't
sure,
me anymore.
Bro.
Okay, well, I'll talk to my mom about it later and put my foot down. because right now she's sleeping, and then I have the funeral to worry about. So after the funeral, I will talk to my mother, put my foot down. Yeah, okay. Well, majority of y'all take care, and, just mingle amongst yourselves for now.
Chris was determined to prove his worth in a way that likely nobody expected him to. He was actually going to set out on a voyage to save his internet girlfriend. Most people just expected him to pretend to go on the trip like he did with Miyamoto, and then save face by saying that something happened that was entirely out of his control. According to the 13th batch of Skype logs with BlueSpike, ranging from February 24th to the 27th, on the 24th, Chris talked to BlueSpike via voice chat while Max messaged him directly. I was unable to find any recordings of Chris speaking. However, this conversation was merely to set up everything needed to get Chris all fired up for the trip. But Chris would pass out during the conversation because he was tuckered out from such a stressful day. Even though he was sleepy, he still reached out to Clyde to email him to confirm that he was going to do the thing. I have not failed you, sir. As a matter of fact, I am coming to Cleveland tomorrow. I am preparing for my journey, my mind is set, and I have the support of God, my relatives, and my friends. So stop trying to scare me, because it is not working. Tomorrow morning, I am coming to Cleveland, Ohio for Julie. Chris didn't actually leave the following day, but you know. Anyway, on the following day, Chris returned after the previous day's outing. He reached out to BlueSpike to apologize for not being around much the night before, but despite this, he was sent to begin his adventure. It's also worth mentioning that Chris claimed that every person he talked to about this problem in real life was in support of him embarking on his quest, allegedly anyway. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I could not get on last night because I was tired after my long trip. Anyway, Max, I am making my trip to Cleveland tomorrow morning. I am financially set with $50 for the trip, a tank of gas, changes of clothes and such. So you go ahead and inform Clyde of that. Chris had everything he needed. He packed a few set of clothes, filled up his gas tank, and somehow convinced himself that $50 was enough to get around anywhere outside of a city. He also packed both his PSP and DS, because he either wanted options in case one console got boring, or he was hoping to play some video games side by side with Julie when they were finally united. Chris got up real early, leaving at 5:30 in the morning on the 26th, sneaking away without even telling his parents goodbye. He did, however, leave a note for them so they'd have an idea of where he was, indicating that perhaps he didn't have their support after all. His parents immediately called the police upon discovering the note, filing a missing persons report. His parents were concerned since this was his first time hitting the open road on his own. There was the chance that he'd be confronted with problems that he wasn't equipped for, and very well could be putting himself in danger. Chris went north on Interstate 81, likely taking US Route 522 and I-70 to Breezewood, Pennsylvania. When he got to the Pennsylvania Turnpike, eventually becoming the Ohio Turnpike, Chris also managed to get himself locked out of his car while at the Ohio toll booth, in which the staff contacted AAA to get him back in his vehicle. I have done many trips in my life, and I've gone through countless toll booths, and not even once have I had to set foot outside of my vehicle, so what the hell was he doing that warranted him stepping out of his car? Chris was still holding on to that $50 he honestly thought would be more than sufficient to carry him across state lines, spending a good chunk of it on tolls, gasoline, a cheeseburger, and a lemonberry slushie from Sonic. Do you think he went there because of the name? Their food sucks, and the name alone was the only reason I was interested in going there as a child. But anyway, he somehow managed to skirt by, which all things considered is shocking. Imagine trying to pull off the same trip with today's inflated prices. Chris eventually arrived in Cleveland, one of the many horrendous armpits in the glorious state of Ohio. Upon reaching the address that Chris was told that Julie, Max, and Clyde were at, Chris knocked on the door ready for a good old-fashioned handshake. Unfortunately for Chris, none of these folks were there, as he was greeted by an elderly woman who was residing at that house. She and nobody else in the area had any idea who Julie and Max Molvania were. The woman did tell Chris that she sometimes received mail from the synagogue nearby, but Chris said that he saw no indication of his lover or his enemies there either. Shucks! With a heavier heart, Chris turned around and made his way back home, eventually completing the 800 or so mile round trip. Chris sent an email to Clyde afterward, informing him of his feelings regarding his recent trek into the unknown. I traveled an 800-plus round trip to Cleveland, Ohio, only to find that the address you gave me led to a rundown old red house with an elderly woman residing in it, but not you nor Julie. No one in that neighborhood even heard of Julie nor Max. Go ahead, laugh it up, but I want to thank you very much for the traveling experience. I actually did have a great time on the road and enjoyed the sights and views. On the 27th, once Chris finally made it back to his hovel and his parents were finished scolding him for up and disappearing on them, Chris hopped on Skype to have a chat with Max. Chris tried to act macho in the conversation, demanding to know what the hell Max and Clyde were thinking by sending him out on a wild goose chase. Max scoffed at Chris's demeanor, attempting to gaslight him about what address he had visited while in Ohio. I didn't see you there. I gave you the right address. I bet you didn't even drive there. It was pleasant, very little rain, a few clouds, gave me some time to reflect on myself away from home. I crossed into Maryland, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, then Ohio. Here, I've just scanned my receipts with my car ornament. I'll take a look. Tell me how your parents felt. Chris, are you serious? They were worried about me. So bad that they went to the police and put out an APB on me, and then removed it after I informed them that I was on my way back home. Yes, I am. Giving me pictures of a receipt from a Sonic's will not prove it. Look at the address. I doubt you went to the correct house. I went to prove me wrong. Which house? I found a rundown red house with an elderly black woman residing there. I asked her for you and Julie. She did not know either of you. Ah, our mother. I told her to say nothing of us. You see, Chris, I played a bit of a game with you. And then she informed me of her getting mail from there was a Jewish church and an elementary school next door there. How do you feel? Down, but not out. The two kept bickering for a short while longer, but Chris wasn't going to entertain Mac's bullshit much further. He told Max that he wanted to go because he was having lunch with his parents at Golden Corral, a chain of buffets known for how vile and filthy the patrons tend to be. Max continued to try to force-feed Chris the idea that he was neglecting Julie to instead stuff his fat face with garbage food rather than be a man. Chris, just like the many other times when he stopped giving a shit, hardly gave much of a response that would satisfy the trolls. Chris, you do realize, I will never let my sister pair up with you. She could easily get a better man than you. Why can't you see that I am a good person? Chris, why, against my will, do you insist on my sister so much? Because I cared enough to go to the house, because you told me you were threatening her. I gotta go. I'm having lunch with my family at Golden Corral. No. Are you serious? You're going to leave my sister to stuff your face? You are awful. Look, I've had a long trip, and I'm still recovering from that. Fine. We'll talk after. Peace. Something incredibly foolish that Chris did when discussing various topics with Julie was sharing his PSN login details. I'm not quite sure why he felt that Julie would ever need to gain access to his PlayStation Network profile, but he was pretty forthcoming with the information. This of course meant that Max would get his grubby little hands on the login details in due time, and the climax of this growing saga would finally come into play. On the 3rd of March 2009, one of the most diabolical and groundbreaking bits of trolling occurred, radically changing the way Christory and its many ongoing sagas would be perceived going forward. Chris had heard from Julie that Max had managed to gain access into both Chris's Yahoo account, sonichuandroastju.com, and his PSN profile. This gave Max an advantage unlike anything Chris could have predicted. He was summoned into a conversation with Max, and Chris being the way he is, he just waltzed right in and stumbled around, unaware that he had walked right into a trap that would scar him for years to come. Max was holding Chris's PlayStation account and his contact with Julie over his head, forcing him to choose between two of his most sought-after pleasures, video games and the prospect of potential pussy. This was a difficult decision for ChrisChan because both of those things are integral for survival. Now, we're going to listen to a bit of this call, and I want you to keep in mind that this recording is nearly 20 years old and it was done inefficiently at the time, so the audio quality leaves a lot to be desired. Either way, this is a glimpse into the world of bullying a mentally impaired adult who shits himself on the regular when he gets a little too stressed out. Max immediately hit Chris with his demands. ChrisChan had to carefully choose here because both of these facets of his life were very dear to him. Chris seemed to be kind of confused by the options he had, initially deciding to stick with video games because they'll never tell him no when they're not in the mood.
Alright, I want my stuff back. Alright, I'm sorry, can I... please. I'm sorry, I want Julie. Quit messing around. Come on, this is serious.
Chris proceeded to be mocked by Max, who poked fun at him for being in such a situation and having a hard time figuring out whether he wanted human companionship or the dopamine from playing Little Big Planet. Chris is quite the exceptional individual in this instance. Max eventually put Julie on the horn so that way Chris could get a taste of what he desired. Julie asked Chris about what exactly was happening in regards to this whole debacle. I can't imagine that there's many women out there that have been put in a position where their man had to choose between them and their PlayStation. I know, it's a tricky choice, but I'd imagine that any woman in this situation would immediately be offended knowing that their lover struggled to choose between them and a hobby.
Julie, this brother found out how I could get my PSN account and the part of my Yahoo account back since a pair of these people have hacked into my PSN, my Yahoo account. Anyway, made me have to make a choice, you or my PSN and my Yahoo account. Now it says you. Yeah. Well, Alright, but listen, Julie, do me a favor. Try to get my PS7 or Yahoo account back from your brother for me. Not easy, but I'd rather have my true love. Yeah.
It's worth noting that Chris asked Julie to get his login info back from Max, revealing that while he did want to have Julie as his sweetheart, he still also longed for video games and was subject to trying to get his accounts back because he wanted to make sure that he still had something to distract him when he wasn't in the mood for hanky-panky from his gal pal. He tried to claim that it was because he invested so much time and effort and money into the account, but really, Chris is just addicted to video games. At one point, the mayor of Quickville offered to show his penis to him, as some kind of offering to get both Julie and the login back. Not quite sure how that could possibly sweeten the deal and shift the control of the situation over to him, but I guess it is a negotiation tactic nonetheless, just not a very good one. I mean, at that point, it was not hard to find photos of his dangling participle online, so why would Max not just go look at his bent duck on the ED page if that's really what he wanted? Max, of course, shot down this idea. Chris tried to haggle with him by offering to send a copy of Street Fighter IV when he had it, but this did little to dissuade Max from his behavior. This ended up resulting in an all-caps rage from ChrisChan.
Look. You want me to show you my dick? No. I was just showing... No, you asked me to do it, and I was just showing you that I would do that to get my... No. Well, you were kidding, so... Yeah. But still, I was just letting you know I would do that. So, alright. Well, I will not show it to you, but... Yeah, but seriously, please. Don't do this to me. I've had so much bad times in my life. Yes, I admit this is one of them, but please, give me back everything. Oh my God, this way. Let's see. After Julie, I will mail you back a copy of Street Fighter 4 after I get it in the month. No! Look, what do you want? What do you truly want from me? No! Stop it! Max, you stop it right now, you bastard! Stop it! You stop it right now! You're really making me angry!
Do you think his parents were both just totally fucking deaf during this? How did they not hear him screaming and yelling, but they heard him making a scene after the house tour video got spread around online? Perhaps he slipped them some melatonin in their evening glass of water, but who really knows? I like to imagine that Barb was busy watching jewelry TV and Bob was comatose from his old age, making them oblivious to the tantrum that was being thrown upstairs. I also find it interesting that Chris was willing to make a bigger scene over his games rather than the woman he believed was his true and honest lover. Maybe I'm a bit of an asshole. Okay, perhaps using the word maybe is a stretch, but I'm convinced that his fervor's passion shown here is only because he was going to lose his hobbies, not because he felt he was going to lose something that was actually integral for his mental and emotional well-being. Max was thoroughly entertained by this, proposing that he could sell the account on eBay rather than just locking Chris out of it. Not a bad idea, I gotta say. I mean, why not turn a profit from this whole ordeal? Gotta make sure that you walk away with heavier pockets than when you went in, right?
You're making me so angry! You fucking suck so hard! I'm sorry. That hurt a lot, didn't it? Look, I'm sorry you didn't have as much growing up in Molvania. But please, and I understand that you're taking your frustrations out on me at this point. Yeah. You do not put it on eBay! I lost Stalking.net that way, and I'm not gonna lose my PSN account this way!
As the conversation went on, Max grilled Chris about how socially inept he is. They discussed his hygiene or lack thereof, which Chris contests that he knows a fair bit about keeping clean because he got tips from the John Tesh radio show, cementing Chris as somebody who likes boring things. And while we're here, fuck you, John Tesh. Your awful shows used to ruin my nights as a child, and I'm challenging you to a public naked dick duel. That's a penis sword fight for those of you who are uninitiated. And we'll battle at Devil's Lake State Park. Square up. Anyway, sorry about that. Max needed time to contemplate what he wanted to do. He had heard the pleas of ChrisChan, and his sister would surely be heartbroken if she didn't get with Chris. The two participants of the call agreed to reconvene shortly after Max returned to his quarters to decide what he was going to do with the information that he had been given. This was a defining moment for both the trolls and ChrisChan, a point where weeks of coordinated trolling and manipulation were finally going to culminate into a trashy meltdown of epic proportions. Nobody was going to come out of this looking good, but the important thing is that Chris would be bamboozled yet again. Later that night, the big reveal was finally going to happen. The stage had been set. The trolls were eagerly awaiting the arrival of Chris and the ultimate payload to be deployed. He was going to learn that everyone, and I mean quite literally everyone, is against him. Nobody he personally knew, outside of maybe his family, and even then it's in quite a limited capacity, is in his corner. Chris had taken the time to collect his thoughts, and perhaps he felt he was ready for more of the same from earlier. He once again entered the mumble chat, ready to take on Max and possibly get both his internet girlfriend and his PSN account back, but I also wouldn't hold my breath. This call is going to be pretty grating, and we're not going to sit through the entire 50-minute conversation, but I'll point out some highlights for you to listen to. Again, BlueSpike has an obnoxious voice which makes the audio a real chore to listen to at times, but it is very important in order to understand just how deranged BlueSpike had become. Early on in the conversation, Max wanted Chris to demonstrate the anger that he was feeling in his belly. Chris tried to growl to intimidate his young opponent, but Max was not dissuaded. He found this entire interaction hilarious and proceeded to laugh.
I want Julie.
Really? You sincerely mean this?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't yell at me one more time, you're not gonna get either, so start yelling. I wanna see your fangs! Are you constipated? I think you're constipated. ChrisChan takes a dump. Oh, look out, it's Super Saiyan. You're not mad, you pathetic wimp. You disgust me. Oh, what, you smacked the webcam around some? You're a bitch. You're not gonna get my sister that way.
Shortly after this, he instructed Chris to claim that he is homosexual. Now, you and I both know that Chris is an upstanding Christian individual who is being challenged by the Almighty God. It's probably safe to assume that Max was sent to Chris's life as a test, to make sure that he's willing and ready to be the man that some woman desires, going as far as to have her and his PSN account be kidnapped in his holy mission to make Chris into a better person. Chris proclaimed his alleged sexuality and yelled into the microphone when pushed enough, much to the entertainment of Max, who was eating up the entire discussion. He was like a pig in shit, thrilled that he was putting his trolling target through emotional duress.
I'm sorry. Repeat that?
Say that I'm a homo.
Mm.
No, say it loud and proud and do pelvic thrusts.
Mm.
Oh, that's not gonna get the PSN.
Mm.
eBay.
No.
Then say it louder.
I'm a homo.
eBay.
No.
Yes.
No. No. No.
No. That's not okay, mommy. Yes, it's going on eBay, boy.
No. You. No.
No.
Don't you dare.
Why don't you call me a fucking whatever you call me? Start swearing. It might change my mind.
You fucking suck so hard.
And you're a fucking homo. What's the difference? That you're the homo. Come on, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that you're a little pussy. Come on.
I once again have to ask how Chris's parents never heard this shit. Imagine his folks are just sitting in their respective chairs in the living room, rounding away while watching television, and the muffled sounds of Chris screaming about being gay can be heard through the walls. Come to think of it, they were probably a touch used to his meltdowns by this point. The theatrics of this chat are something that leaves me in awe. Granted, it gets a hell of a lot worse later, but even early on, we're getting some Looney Tunes level dialogue here. I just want you to think about the classic rabbit season, duck season bit here for a second, as Max and Chris really did have a moment of back and forth bickering that mirrors the same thought process. Maybe Max thought that Chris would eventually screw up and tell him to sell the account.
It's going on eBay.
No. No. No.
Yes.
You leave it to eBay.
eBay. Yes. Yes.
No.
eBay.
You stop.
eBay.
Stop.
eBay.
Stop.
eBay.
Stop.
Why don't you give me the fucky finger while you're at it?
As the conversation moved on, Max repeatedly beat Chris over the head with the fact that if he chose the PlayStation Network account, he'd never get to have Julie or the other way around. I do wonder if Chris picked up on the vibe that maybe he wasn't going to get either of those things, but nevertheless, he still tried. Chris tried to bargain with Max, telling him that he can keep the Sonichu PSN account, but he wasn't allowed to sell it. Something about selling the account to a random person on the internet, especially for less than the value that he had spent on games and DLCs over the years, just rubbed him the wrong way. I mean, if it were my account, I'd be upset that it was hijacked regardless of what the final outcome is, but I suppose maybe Chris thought it'd at least bring Max, a kid, a bit of joy, instead of a troll spending money on it, and the money going directly to help the efforts of Encyclopedia Dramatica. Every single time Max would propose some simple way ChrisChan could get something from him, Chris would usually begrudgingly do it, but, as you would expect, this never really went anywhere beyond making Chris look like a fool who falls for the same tricks only seconds to minutes apart.
Come on, I want you to yell. Yell as loud as you possibly can, and I will give you the PSN. No strings attached. You yell like a pussy. You're a bitch. Yell louder. Uh-oh, I won't like you when you're mad. Oh wait, I do, because it's pretty fucking funny to watch your dumbass. Hey Chris. Here, I'll give you the PSN if you can do one thing.
Alright.
Suck my dick.
How can I do yours when you're all the way over there?
I'll go all the way to Virginia.
Shortly after, Max accused Chris of not having balls, but rather a set of ovaries, in which Chris immediately began to undo his pants so as to present his pendulous penis and ballsack. But Max immediately shot that down again. Twice in one night. You really gotta love that. He then made Chris do a little dance. Max could see Chris during this debacle, but we're not able to see anything considering it's just an audio recording. On one hand, it's a shame that we missed out on the scoot and jig that Chris did, but on the other, it's probably for the best that we can't see anything considering what's still coming. Max pushed Chris even harder, making him fetch his medallion, which strangely enough he wasn't wearing during this. Max instructed Chris to burn the medallion in his hand, then to shoot his goo onto it. That's right, he had to burn an effigy of his electric hedgehog Pokemon and supposed son, only to glaze it after with a warm, frothy helping of baby batter. Chris couldn't maintain his stiffy considering he was under immense stress, posing complications for the prospect of Chris violating the decency of his fictional character. When this failed to happen, Max ordered Chris to declare that Billy Mays is the true and honest mayor of Quickville, and that Kristen Chandler should be reprimanded in barbaric ways. Now granted, Max made Chris use some particularly colorful language here, and YouTube being YouTube, I can't safely repeat it without the CEO trying to send highly trained assassins to my house. So, get ready.
Billy Mays is the new mayor of Quickville.
Louder, you fucking pussy.
Billy Mays is the new mayor of Quickville.
Stop saying it in your fucking dumbass voice, you stupid bitch. I'm not gonna send Julie over there if you use that voice again.
Billy Mays is the new mayor of Quickville.
Yeah, and also say that Kristen Chandler will be thrown in jail. Quickville jail.
And Kristen Chandler will be thrown in Quickville jail.
Where he will be raped by a bunch of nerds. Say this one really loud.
He will be raped by a bunch of nigos.
No, say nerds, you stupid twat.
Nerds.
Louder.
Nerds.
Louder.
Don't trust them.
No.
Over there.
No, shut up. You ruined that fucking show.
Max was becoming more and more unhinged as the conversation continued. Was this the result of grooming by malicious trolls that wanted him to become everything they needed to make Chris go crazy? Or was this a hormonally charged kid who was losing control because he was given power over another weaker human being? Or maybe Max was just totally whacked out of his fucking mind from the very beginning. Who knows, really? The only thing we can verify here is that at the time, Max was totally and completely out of control. I've always assumed that this behavior was because he was excited to finally pounce on his prey after spending weeks screwing with Chris's head. While Chris was off looking for a match or some other way to ignite his medallion, Max proceeded to indulge himself in a maniacal diatribe about how Chris deserved everything that was happening to him and belittled him every few seconds. Meanwhile, Chris was rummaging around in his hovel of a home, looking for something that had set his necklace into an inferno, and considering how his home was filled with trash, he likely had to practice some level of caution because a single flame could set the whole house ablaze. Well, the hypothetical frenzy of a fire would happen some years after this, so I suppose it was an inevitability. Anyway, Max was filled with some kind of unstoppable passion here, yelling and squawking to make sure that he was heard. He had to get his point across to the man who was too mentally impaired and lazy to give an actual shit about what was being sent to him.
And I want to be on your hand. I want to see you get burned, you fucking dick. I want to see you get burned. I want to see you get a fucking 3rd-degree burn. I want to see you lose a fucking finger. Oh, and after you burn it, shut up your ass. How does that sound, Chris? Sound like you're ready to have a good time? Great, Chris. Chris, wait! It's important. Damn it, listen. You can burn the medallion or shove it up your butt. Make your choice. Oh, interrogating autistics. So easy. So easy, especially with you, Chris. You dumb fuck. You make it all too easy.
Max then changed his idea to self-insertion rather than burning. He wanted Chris to shove his medallion up his own ass. Now, it's entirely possible to get something that large into somebody's anus. The human booty hole is impressively resilient and can adapt to many unbelievable shapes. But if Chris wasn't actively trying to fool around with his poop chute, there was a good chance it'd resist accepting some Crayola model magic. Chris suggested that he chop up his medallion into a few pieces to make the process that much easier. Upon trying to get everything in order, Max spotted some alarming stains in Chris's underwear, indicating that he might have had another instance of dirty, crapped briefs. I guess at least he wasn't going to be going in totally dry.
Oh god damn it. Oh god damn it. Oh, I see brown stains. Did you crap your pants, really?
Maybe.
No, really. Tell me the truth. Did you?
Yeah.
Whatever. Just put it in there. And then take pictures of it. Oh, goodness.
Chris said that he was going to record the process, eliminating the need for Max to do it himself. Little by little, he divided his medallion into smaller pieces and gradually pushed them inside of his body. Max enjoyed the show, as terrifying as that is to say, raising his voice and encouraging Chris to keep entertaining him. This is one of those instances in the conversation where I start to feel gross listening to it. I mean, yeah, the previous parts of this call weren't exactly pleasant to begin with, but this really upped the ante. So much more deranged and hateful than anything prior.
Good. Come on, more, as far as you possibly can. More, until I can't see it. More, shove it up, more! Yes, please do continue. Oh, I can't wait to see how brown it is when you take it out. Chris, is your hand stuck?
I'm tired.
No, keep going. You're not gonna fucking chicken out. How does this make you feel, Chris?
Miserable.
The trolling that had affected Chris's life was certainly a force to be reckoned with at first, but this raised the bar of the gold standard for screwing with ChrisChan. For once, this couldn't be shrugged off as some kind of playful but mean-spirited hijinks. Even the other trolls were starting to feel uncomfortable. Everything that had happened prior to this was arguably morally wrong, but Max pushed things beyond what anyone involved wanted to happen. They spoke up, telling BlueSpike to stop because for once they had been outdone in the most gratuitous of ways.
Oh god, more! Shove it until I can't see it. Oh god, poor Sasha.
BlueSpike, no more.
Brown stained Sonic shoe with the power of shit. Keep going.
BlueSpike, stop this shit.
You don't want to go in.
Then keep trying. Make some room in there.
Stop this shit.
Stop it. Really?
Alright, fine, you can stop.
I do wonder if this changed the view of what the trolls were doing in their own eyes. Did they realize that they had been pushing someone who was admittedly bizarre and pretty out there to do things that were entirely unnecessary? That's not to say that Chris didn't deserve to be ribbed a bit. Nobody's above a little playful prodding with a stick, but this was different. The scope of the harassment had changed exponentially, recontextualizing what the hell they were actually engaging in. I know a lot of trolls have stepped away from their series of ops and what have you, and that likely stems from them getting older and experiencing some level of troll's remorse. I'd be shocked if the people here that were telling BlueSpike to chill out weren't quick to leave soon after. They had to intervene and nearly beg him so that way he would let Chris take the modeling clay out of his orifice. Go figure, the child they employed went far beyond where they wanted to go. Quite the results, huh? Chris carefully collected the pieces of the medallion, either by pulling or pooping them out, and I really don't want to know which avenue he took. But either way, it was time for the trolls to finally close all of this down. They understood that they had gone too far this time, and it was important that they wrap up their little show and be on their way. Max told Chris to hop onto the Mumble server so they can continue their conversation. Chris objected initially, saying that he was having input issues with his microphone, but Max told him to get over there and use his PSI camera to communicate. ChrisChan was obviously sore and tired from the act he had to perform, probably wanting to go shower to clean off the stink of what happened to him. I mean, this was technically a rape, right? Chris was forced to do sexual things that he didn't want to do. He was coerced into stuffing his own bottom for a girlfriend and PlayStation account. I'm no legal expert, but I do feel like there was a crime or two committed during this call. Either way, Chris would be in the server shortly, and everything would finally come crashing down. Chris arrived in the Mumble server shortly after, greeted by Julie and Clyde and some other trolls. Chris was relieved to finally hear the soft, gentle, convincing voice of his sweetheart. But something was off. Julie seemed uneasy, and she had something to tell him. She hesitated a bit, unsure if she could say what was on her mind. Chris wanted to know what she was feeling inside, especially after the pain he had endured on the inside for her just a few moments ago.
Hey.
Hey,
Chris?
Julie?
There's something I've been trying to tell you for a while.
Yes?
Well, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, and I think it's safe to say that I can tell you this with my heartfelt love.
Alright, yes, go ahead and tell me now.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
I can't. Not right now.
Come on, please.
No, I can't.
Please, Julie, I've just been through a whole lot of mess for you just
Why?
now.
What happened?
I'll say that in private, but let me hear what you say first, from your heart.
This is so hard for me to say.
You love me, don't you?
I do, but there's something else I need to say.
Well, Chris, no. It's a little more complicated than that. Now, dear audience, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. The exact moment Chris's whole fictional world came crashing down. At least until he got over it a few days later and got back onto his usual bullshit. Julie kept hesitating, delaying the big reveal to Chris, who was convinced that his girlfriend did truly love him, and maybe she was finally going to profess her undying love and attraction to him. After all, she was going to be there tomorrow, and he was finally going to lose his virginity. This was a big event, best to make sure nothing goes unsaid. This segment might go on for a bit because there's a lot to unpack here, so get ready.
I don't know, but this is... Can you talk with the fans for like 5 minutes, and then I'll tell you, please?
I'm
Actually,
sorry.
no. No, I'm ready to tell you.
Okay.
This whole time, Chris, you've been having sex with a 13-year-old boy, you sick fuck!
What?
Yeah, I'm a 13-year-old boy, Chris, and you've been having sex with me this entire time. I'm gonna give all your fucking data to Chris Hansen, you fucking pedo fork. So you better get the fuck out now, before I report you to the fucking feds. Get out.
Now wait a minute.
No,
I did not know you were a 13-year-old.
Yes, you did. They're not gonna believe you. They're gonna fucking put you away.
Fine,
Tell
I'll
me,
leave.
Chris. No. Wait a minute. Wait. Now I seem to have you in a bit of a vice grip. Now I'm gonna let you talk, but if you leave, your PSN is going far away.
I'm not leaving now. So let me guess, you were matched the whole time, weren't you?
And Julie, yes, both of them, both figments of my imagination. They never existed. There is no Julie.
Okay.
She never existed, Chris. She died 5 years ago. Who have you been talking to?
Boy.
Tell me, Chris.
Hmm.
Now,
Hey.
Yes, please do speak.
What do you want me to tell you?
Tell me how you feel about this, that you've been sidering with a 13-year-old boy this entire time. Do you like little boys? I think you do.
I do not.
You drove to Ohio for no reason. It was a trick. I was able to fool you, you dumb man. How does this make you feel? Tell me.
Well, I feel terrible.
How does it feel that I've tricked you? Tell me.
I feel terrible.
All the things that I've taken from you, they are now mine, and you will never receive them back. I got many things out of you. I've gotten to get the audio, the video.
It was later revealed by Chris that he had actually never recorded himself putting the medallion up his hiney. Now, either he did record it and decided to not share it because he didn't want the trolls to have something else, or he did really pull a fast one on BlueSpike. He did still stuff his ass though, so it wouldn't be a total win on that front. You'd think that BlueSpike would have had the foresight to record his screen, but at the same time we're lucky he didn't because we don't really need to see that. Nobody did then, and nobody does now. I'd say we all lucked out.
If you really want your self-dignity, if you truly want your self-dignity to be remained, then you will send me that video of you shoving that medallion up your anus. Or I will tell everyone what you've been doing, and all the fans will believe that you are a pedophile.
Okay, you see, the thing is, I was lying, so I hope you've been recording on your end, because I wasn't recording on my end.
Well, I'm sorry then, because this is going out to everyone. So what's it gonna be, Chris? Are you gonna do it again, or am I gonna have to give everything to everyone?
It's kind of hard to do an encore performance at this point.
Well, that's unfortunate, Chris. You're going to have to do it.
Fine, how about this?
Wait. First of all, Clyde.
What up?
Yes, he finally found out I expected a bit more of a shitstorm, that he's been having sex with a 13-year-old boy like a sick fuck.
Whatever.
And he drove to Ohio for no reason. Chris, tell me, why did you drive to Ohio? Under the guise that you would get a boyfriend fee goal. Should I call Chris Hansen? I think I know his number.
Look, Chris, man, on that trip to Ohio, you had a cell phone. We were calling you, trying to, give you directions.
Because, Chris, let me tell you, there was a Julie. There truly is a Julie. But...
Yeah, there is.
There was. But she died.
Yeah, we don't have to go with the die. She's real. She's actually in Ohio, but...
Let me tell you something, Chris. About the wildfires I told you about. I truly was the one who started them.
Okay, you're going crazy. Okay, we don't have to do the whole wildfire thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Troll.
Yeah, this is going kind of crazy. I mean, you sounded like a 13-year-old boy, and Chris just kind of fell for that.
Yes, Chris, what?
How do I sound
like a girl to you, motherfucker? How do I sound like a girl?
You just sound... I know what a woman sounds like.
An obvious rift was forming between not only BlueSpike and the other trolls present, but between BlueSpike and Clyde specifically. It appeared that Clyde was irritated with BlueSpike because everything had gone way out of control. The trolls were also likely expecting a much more entertaining and explosive response from their target, but instead he seemed to be beaten down and hardly interested in fighting back. They broke him, at least for now, and they didn't get the sweet spoils from war that they had hoped for. Clyde would proceed to scold Chris for the many things that everybody had already given him grief about before. BlueSpike would try to interject and provide something new, but Clyde would repeatedly tell him to shut up. The reality had mostly set in for the participants of the server that maybe they didn't actually accomplish anything outside of making Chris look foolish, but realistically, he's always been proficient at doing that on his own. Chris would eventually dip from the chat and crash into slumber, allowing himself to recharge. The world wasn't going to get any easier, but hey, at least he wasn't cybering with a child anymore.
I think he's crying. Why don't we just let the baby cry?
I'm not crying.
Yes, you are. You pathetic fuck.
I am not.
BlueSpike, you're a little too mean. That's... he has no fans. Well...
You're right.
Whatever.
If I may inform you, Chris, I know you may have been told this before, but how does it feel to know that this is your entire fan base?
It's true. It is also... Oh yeah, that's hilarious. Anna, by the way, is not a lesbian. She's just that cheap.
Yeah, lesbian loves the dick. She just doesn't want yours. Every girl, so far, every girl has been a troll. We try to tell you this, and then we just get sick of it and do
how many
this.
people have told you this, that BlueSpike is a boy? I can't believe how many times. And you still...
I believe you because I've heard your honest and true voice.
Goodbye.
Well,
Okay.
I think we hurt him pretty bad.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of completely blew Chris's mind right
Can I
there.
stop
In one
recording?
night. Hey, you can stop recording whenever you feel like it's a good idea.
Stop.
Following the public revelation that Julie was, in fact, a young boy, Chris's Encyclopedia Germanica page was turned into a battlefield as disgruntled users of the site lashed out against people that knowingly supported and/or engaged with this latest saga. People used the discussion portion of his page to debate on whether or not the people behind this latest scheme were awful. Many people felt that this had gone too far, that Clyde had pushed the boundaries beyond what was acceptable and should be viewed as a Lolcow himself. BlueSpike was regarded as a dangerous brat that was either used by Clyde or was an evil little menacing shit on his own. I think Clyde and his cohorts probably expected the saga to be perceived as well as previous ones, but surprise surprise, including a maniacal child in the mix was possibly the worst thing they could have done. I mean, could they have not just gotten someone else to pose as a girl and get all the crazy stuff out of him without introducing a kid to all of this nonsense? What was the end goal anyway? To manipulate Chris into thinking that he's some kind of pedophork or maybe change the public's perception of him to something like that? I don't know, seems kinda convoluted to me. According to Wit, an ED user that had his post archived on the Quickie, if BlueSpike really is 13 years old, then we know who the real child molesters are. Hey, be one of the cool kids. Help this autistic guy jack off. Pretend to be a girl so we can videotape and record it. That's the real reason you were shitting it and called for a 30-minute silence just after, Clyde. At least you had the balls to say it was you responsible. If BlueSpike really is 13, then you groomed a child to perform sex acts on a mentally retarded man for your pleasure. You're fucked, son. You both broke a Lolcow, but there's better sport now. And don't act like you don't care. I saw you shitting yourselves all that night and the next, sending waves of members out to kill threads about it or put in false names. Just like your sock earlier in the page. Ready to have a seat over there? The perception of Chris's trolling had fundamentally changed for a lot of people. While lots did find what was done to him prior to this to be unfair and cruel, this modified the scope of things. It went far beyond just schoolyard name-calling and rustling feathers, to having children engage in things that are illegal for them to be a part of. Prior to the revelation to Chris that Julie was a fraud, trolls would often have to tell BlueSpike to calm down and belittle him just because they didn't like his behavior. We saw this clear as day during the final BlueSpike call. BlueSpike was kicked out of the Miscreants after their public reputation had been tainted. Good on them for finally removing him from the group, but this doesn't absolve them from their acts. All of the things they got out of Chris could have still been received if they literally had anybody else pose as a girlfriend for him. Having the surprise be a gotcha moment where Chris was bamboozled by a kid doesn't prove anything beyond Chris being mentally disabled and foolish. It's not like it was proof that he was a sex offender, at least not yet anyway, but that's a different discussion entirely. Nor would it be anything beyond proof that he's naive. Nothing of value was learned from this outside of the revolting recordings I got out of him. You would assume that Chris would be down and out after being tricked like this, but as it turns out, he got back up some days later and resumed his usual content production of talking on the internet and drawing his silly little comics. In just a few weeks, he'd already found a new online girlfriend to be tricked by, and the cycle inevitably continued to repeat. BlueSpike would be brought up several more times in the future, with references to the whole Julie debacle popping up in prank calls to Chris's house and comments left under his social media posts by trolls. Chris would try to get revenge against the kid by fail doxing him and threatening to take him down. At one point, he was under the impression that BlueSpike was Lolcow David Harlow, which simply is not the case, but it'd be funny if it were true. The 12th and very last mumble chat with Chris and his trolls happened on March 5th, 2009. Chris was trying to get back into his websites to get them up and running while also talking with some fine folks on the internet about everything that had happened. Clyde showed up and was mostly civil, though he did confirm something of importance to Chris.
Hey Clyde, some jerk saying that he killed the 13-year-old brat.
Well, I did. That's what I said. Didn't you get that message?
What message?
Happy birthday. I killed him. You wanted it, right?
Well, I did not say kill him. For God's
sake. You said
sake.
get him. I figured as much. And I didn't like him anyway, so happy birthday.
That's sad.
Even years later, he's still convinced that BlueSpike is dead, though his belief in this has fluctuated a lot over the years with his current belief in the dimensional merge. So who's to say that BlueSpike or Max or Julie aren't alive in C197? It should go without saying that Clyde didn't actually kill BlueSpike, and the kid has grown older and has since expressed his remorse for the things he did to Chris. He signed up for Kiwi Farms in the late 2010s, and shared a bit of insight on what it was like to do what he did with ChrisChan all those years ago. In one post he stated, quote, "There's been tons of things in my life I've regretted and hated doing later on. All of the stuff from 10 years ago was one of them. I've moved past everything that happened those many years ago, and obviously I'm a different person now. It wasn't funny and was a very A-log thing to do. Nothing much else I can say." Chris may not be as affected by what happens these days, but he still views BlueSpike as one of his most dastardly trolls. He even made a trading card based on both Julie and Max, showing that he still holds disdain for BlueSpike all these years later. I personally have very mixed feelings regarding everything that happened. I'm not here to say what is right and wrong, though I suppose I kinda did that here and there in the video, but those of you who have functional brains and made it to this point in the video more than likely understand what is unforgivable about this saga, but I'd like to hammer in some points here. Instead of luring in a child to help troll Chris, it would have been much safer to have a grown adult do all of this. There are men out there that can do some really convincing feminine voices, and even then, it didn't necessarily have to be 100% accurate to a woman's inflection because Chris has never been wise enough to spot fakers. Additionally, other trolls that led Chris on were also women, meaning that BlueSpike's trolling op literally could have been pulled off by both a real woman and some guy as Max, or maybe the woman could have been both. Lots of opportunities here, and they ultimately chose the most backwards route, but it did make it memorable. I can't deny that. Christory indicates that Chris is pathetically easy to manipulate and will do just about whatever a hypothetical girlfriend requests of him as long as it's sexual. There was nothing to gain by approaching the situation with the BlueSpike strategy, and it ultimately muddied the waters. While I do long for the simpler times of the internet, and that includes stuff like Chris's story, there is also a major caveat. It requires things like this to happen. I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't laugh when I first learned of this stuff many years ago, and I still found myself chuckling when doing research for this video recently, but there has to be a limit. Chris, despite everything else that's transpired over the last 5 or so years, is in the most stable position he's been in for a very, very long time. And even if there's still a cabal of trolls pissing in his ears, he's more or less okay. He could have turned out a lot better, but then it requires folks to have actually been proactive when raising him, and unfortunately, they just didn't give a shit. The BlueSpike saga is bittersweet to reflect on, but nevertheless it remains one of the most important and defining chapters in the lengthy tale of Christian Weston Chandler. Not many folks have been subjected to the same amount of hysterical nonsense that Chris has, but rest assured they probably never would have recovered from it as quickly either. Chris is a lot of things. A liar, a bum, a literal motherfucker, but this stuff never really seemed to dissuade him, and now he's a mostly functional loony who will undoubtedly die alone in the system. But hey, at least his love quest is over, right? But with that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. If you like what I do, leave a comment, rate, and subscribe. If you want to support me in a more personal way, you can check out the Patreon link and the Teespring link in the description. I've also got a Newgrounds account if art stuff is your thing. I've got more content coming down the pipeline. But until then, I'll see you degenerates next time.